On match point, OG can bring it home and face G2 tomorrow. So let's wrap it up then. If you're OG, you cannot let this slip through your hands because you don't want to give Fnatic an inch because we know what they can do with that. OG can bring it home and face G2 tomorrow. Fnatic is on blue side. On OG, what do you make sure you draft going into game 3?
I think 2 games we saw very refreshing new strategies. The question is, OG, do they have a third one? Fnatic, are they going to ban the Sona Taric, or are they going to go back to the classic Braum? Because that's what I want to see from Fnatic. I want to see Hylissang on Braum or Rakan. That's what we're scared about. You count the items of Reckless, you see 1, 2, 3 items, the clock is ringing, and all of a sudden you're in a tough spot. Yeah,
Caps, do you agree? What does Fnatic need to pick on blue side?
I mean, I think, as I said, like, I think if they just go back to playing like they played last week and the weeks before that, and just play more standard way, because as a reason we didn't see the Sona Taric last week, right? They probably hadn't practiced it much, and they probably haven't practiced it much this week either, right? So it's not something they're super confident on. So I would just go back to what they're good at, and then I want to see a 3-0, right?
Amazing. It sounds difficult. Just go back to what was working for you when you're in this arena, when you're down 0-2.
There must be a reason why they're doing what they're doing. I think maybe they didn't have the swing results, maybe they just don't feel comfortable on actually like playing the meta against Origen, who's actually good at adapting to a team that has played a certain style all the time. Yeah,
it has been fantastic adaptation, preparation, and play on the Rift for Origen. They are doing the unthinkable, and they are now on match point versus the reigning champions, Fnatic. Let's see if they can do it, and we send it to the casters for game 3.
Here we are, Shocks. Do or die for the side of Fnatic. Of course, in this game, you can watch through the eyes of Bwipo over twitch.tv/RiotGames2. He is going to need a monster performance to look for the reverse sweep to bring this series back, but it has been an incredible level of performance for OG. Not a lot of people expected it after that round 2 versus G. I would almost say just about nobody outside of the OG faithful expected this kind of performance, but they look so incredibly good as we head into game 3.
Dragos, we called up like 20 people, and 3 of them got behind Origen, and 2 of those people were Origen members. So this was a huge undertaking here for Origen. I feel like everyone counted them out after, like you're saying, they got slapped by G2, but it's just a completely different form. The agency, the decisiveness, the playmaking potential, and not just Nukeduck. Like, I'm glad that the analyst has grabbed hold of him because he's having a superstar performance, but Mithy is popping off these games.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Blitzcrank was just a beauty to behold for him down in the bottom lane, and they beat Fnatic in game 1 with heavy early game, innovative picks. Game 2, it was about the scaling. They outlasted Fnatic, and now with Fnatic once again on blue side, I wonder, do Origen get the Sona Taric account? Is that allowed to happen in game number 3?
And you might have said for some of these teams that they may try to hide something going into the games versus G2 tomorrow, but Fnatic have to put everything on the line here. They decide to ban the Sona.
It was a game of chicken, and Fnatic are the first team to crack. They're like, we're not going to play it. We don't have the confidence in it. Just ban it away. And this is exactly what I wanted to see, and I agree with Caps. I want to see standard League of Legends from both these teams. For Fnatic, because hopefully they get a fighting chance in the series, and for Origen to prove that they can beat Fnatic in every iteration. We can beat you in the early game. We can beat you in the late game. Let's play standard. Let's see how you fare.
And with Skarner and Karthus banned away, it feels like we will once again see the Rek'Sai picked up by Broxah. However, I imagine the Jarvan will be a quick response.
Jarvan is the expected pick here, especially with that Skarner ban. Now, the question is, like, how does this draft fit play out? Because the last 2 games we've seen Sona Taric snapped in immediately. I like the Lissandra pick to deny from Nemesis, but I don't like blinding it for Nukeduck. It's something they did a lot in their series against G2, and I think Origen are much more successful when Nukeduck is on something that can make plays solo.
For me, I think this is going to be the Jarvan lock-in in second rotation. It has so much potential because it has the flex between the jungle as well as the top lane, so you still get that capability of playing with the counter picks on red side. And like you were talking about, you know, you could blind pick your mid lane here. You could go for the Lissandra, but Ryze just has such a comfortable matchup because he has the scaling potential that Lissandra doesn't.
Exactly. Both Ryze and Lissandra are valuable flex picks, but it is the ability to play a side lane much more frequently as well as that bonus damage. Now, Fnatic, I like it. We're going back to the Vayne for Reckless, and of course, the Lissandra, which, if available, Fnatic will always take for Nemesis.
And coming to the series, we talked about Vayne for Reckless, and it felt like any time Fnatic was playing in the playoffs thus far, if Vayne was up, they were willing to pick this champion. Now returning to those roots, maybe something that the analyst desk talked about, where they are just willing to play this standard League of Legends. But Origen taking away the Braum here feels like a very good sign for this team.
And the question is, you know, are we going to get any crazy picks now remaining in these last 2 options? So far, it's, again, very heavy 5v5, a lot of potential, the flex potential as well as playing to those side lanes.
Rakan now banned away, limiting some of the more aggressive engage options for Hylissang. When Braum is off the table, he almost exclusively plays these roaming engage style champions.
Yeah, and Fnatic often, counter to a lot of other teams in the league, save their support pick for the second phase of the draft. That's why you see, Rakan All-Star banned away from them pretty heavily. And why they do that is because they're very comfortable giving Bwipo or Nemesis safe blind picks, like the Lissandra here, which they still can flex around, and they value getting a very strong 2 versus 2 to try and win the game through their bottom lane, which is surely what they're going to try up in this one.
This looks like the easiest and safest option for Patrick right here. Again, hiding the fact, is that a Jarvan top? Is it Jarvan in the jungle? And allowing Alphari more information and more time if he's going to be the weapon that Origen use in this game.
And potentially a situation where we could see positive lane matchups for both Alphari and Nukeduck. Huge, as the bot lane is already opting for a very defensive route on the side of Origen. And
I sort of expect to see the Aatrox again now for Bwipo. It's been a very good pick for him in the past. They should lock that in, which means that Origen could be very comfortable sending the Jarvan up into the top lane to match against the Aatrox. The difference is, with Skarner banned away, Cold would have to jump a little bit further down on the jungle tier list, whereas he is very comfortable in matchups that he knows quite well.
Oh,
yes.
Now coming out. Hylissang, one of the best Pyke players in Europe, if not the best. Have to see how he can perform in this game. A ton of pressure on his shoulders, and this is the game that he opts to go for it. We may see now the Kennen coming into the top lane. It was an okay matchup for Alphari in game 1. It's going to look for the rinse and repeat here. Cold will commit the Jarvan to the jungle, and the Rise will go mid lane into the hands of Nukeduck.
And very standard compositions from both teams. They have played these champions so many times. If you are a fan of Origen, if you're a fan of Fnatic, this is exactly what you wanted to see both your teams slated against. And it feels like it's kind of like the same game. If Patrick and Mithy are known as being kind of this more defensive, utility-oriented bot lane for Origen, and Fnatic are all about trying to attack in that bot lane with Reckless and Hilly. Hilly now on his Pyke. Can they actually break Patrick or Mithy, or will they hold strong again? Because so far, Patrick and Mithy have just been absorbing Reckless and Hilly every time.
And with Ezreal Braum, you expect to see much more of the same. I think looking at the holistic composition here from Origen, they just have a lot of options, whether it's the 1-3-1 with Kennen and Rise in side lanes trying to break down towers, or the team fights, which again, they have a lot of really solid tools to work with. I think that they're much more flexible in the way they want to play the game, whereas Fnatic have a bit more narrow of an approach.
But now Fnatic in position to play a composition that they are incredibly comfortable with. So many picks that we have seen before this season. OG on the cusp of a 3-0 victory. The OG faithful can be proud, but Fnatic fans, if you are out there, your team needs you more than ever. It will take a reverse sweep for them to bring this series back. Rightfully so, I think doubt in the minds of many after what has been a crushing performance in favor of OG thus far.
Now, Origen looking to rewrite history. The last time we were in Rotterdam in 2016, it was an Origen G2 series, G2-1, and Origen want to get back there and say, no, it's our time.
They've already shown us that there's much more for this team than the 0-3 they showed in round 2. Cheeky fans. Breaking the tension for a brief moment, ladies and gentlemen, as we get ready for game 3. Match point for Origen. It is going to be a bloody game, no doubt. The reminder, it does certainly start here and it will end tomorrow. But only one of these teams can move on to face G2 in the finals. And it is certainly do or die.
Fnatic leaving the base and knowing that this is their last chance. They must win 3 games in a row if they want to move on towards the finals. And they've got a much more standard draft, I would say, but a lot of people's eyes are going to be moving towards this Pyke in the bottom lane. Hylissang has been known to play this champion. He's been known to try and terrorize games on this pick. And you'll actually notice he's starting with the Ancient Coin here for the lane. That's a really good lane option. You lose the push of that Relic Shield, but get 5% CDR for a champion with cooldowns of 14, 15 seconds on his Q&E early on. That's going to be strong, as well as the added mana sustain to help him throw out those spells a little bit more frequently.
You can see the rallying cry for the Fnatic fans out in the audience, trying to drum up the hype, drum up some cheers for his favorite team. But now we're looking at this early game, and just gonna have to see how the laning phase unfolds.
Yeah, I like that you see the fan there too, because when Fnatic retook the stage, coming out of the break. The crowd erupted. You know, when Origen came out, it was loud, but when Fnatic joined and sat down in their seats, it was thundering here in Rotterdam. The crowd definitely wants to see more games, but it's going to be a difficult task here for Fnatic that are going up a very dominant-looking Origen roster.
And for me, in this early game, I really want to focus in on both these Danish junglers, Cold and Broxa. They're both known for their heavy pathing. Talking to Yamato before this series, he was really respectful, obviously having worked with Cold in the past, formerly known as Trashy, that in a matchup like Jarvan Rek'Sai, when Cold feels like he knows both sides of this matchup, that he's played both the Rek'Sai and the Jarvan hundreds of times, that he just turns into a completely different animal. He is so good at saying, okay, I know exactly how Rek'Sai is going to path, I know exactly where I need to be, and opening up these timings to create plays for his team. So I'm all attention on Cold and how he's going to help snowball this early game for Origen.
Yeah, and you see it right there. He takes the red buff, hops over the wall, knows there's not going to be a Rek'Sai clearing away his blue buff early on, so he goes for the invade, snags that one away, and actually avoided Broxa entirely.
And now splits the map in such a way that it is going to be bottom side in favor of Fnatic. Patrick though in trouble.
Wow.
But this is exactly what you expected, and this is what Origen drafted for. They knew that they were going to get kicked in the bot lane. That's why they have such a defensive bot lane, whereas Origen are now putting all of their eggs in the Alphari basket, giving him so much safety to again try to abuse Whippo, and now turning towards Nuke Duck. But here's the dive.
You see the dive. Broxa now stepping forward. Patrick has to be careful about how he's going to approach this one. Does move out. Now the immediate knockup is going to follow. Patrick all but set to fall. First blood going over to Reckless just to start Fnatic wanted.
And the question was, can Patrick and Mithy hold the door against Reckless and Hilly? And Fnatic says no. Slams it shut. First blood to Vayne.
And it was a signature early bot lane tower dive here from Broxa. We saw it before on picks like the Nocturne, but the Rek'Sai looks so much better for him. Great start here for Fnatic.
Exactly the start they needed to build that confidence coming into Game 3 when their backs are against the wall. This is what we talk about when we talk about Brox, is that yes, sometimes he does play stock standard jungle. Sometimes he's predictable, but sometimes he takes these risks. He goes for these big plays, and you look at the bottom side of the map. Nice elixir there in the inventory of Patrick, with the mana crystal not so nice. Using the TP, and that's all he's going to have.
That is such a painful back timing for Patrick. At this point, he really just wants to shove the lane in, try to get a reset, and he immediately backed so he can get something more viable like the tier. Fnatic at this point, which is why Hilly is starting to rush towards them, want to keep Patrick and Mithy in this lane to abuse that type of back difference, which is why they're pulling Cold here. They're like, you need to help us shove in this lane so we can actually get Patrick onto a useful item.
Yeah, Cold will be seen walking over the ward there, but again, it's not about the gank here. Oh, actually, he cancels the reset. So because Broxa knows Cold was down here, he's going to walk in towards the top side of the enemy jungle. Raptors have respawned and clubs are also up, so it means he can seal away at least one of those camps.
Good look for Broxa. Will match up now in the jungle CS difference as Cold spends a ton of time on the bottom side, gets that back, and immediately turns his attention towards the top side to pick up Krugs, to back up Alphari if necessary. We'll check in on the rest of the lanes. Everything relatively even in the mid lane. Top lane, though, already heavily Alphari favored. We've yet to see Alphari be kind of a big threat on the Kennen. Didn't see it as much in game 1. It was so much about the rest of the team. Maybe this is the game where it changes, but for now, Nuke Duck in trouble. A perfect prison to stop Broxton from moving forward and finding the knockup means that Nuke Duck can back away. Spotted out by the Tremor Sense there.
Cold is up towards this top lane, uses the EQ over the wall, doesn't know there's a ward in this bush, so Whippo should be able to get the channel of the recall off unless Cold walks up to stop him, but he doesn't have the spells for it. Just came up.
Whippo not scared. He is going to back off here, and Whippo has outplayed these tower dive situations before, but is he going to take the risk and step forward up against OG?
Look at the call, though. Broxa had the ability to walk up towards the top line and prevent the dive, but he says, no, I don't think Cold's going to go for it. Cold ends up walking away. That means Broxa makes it towards the top side and can take the crab.
Yeah, and there's just limited information for Origen to play with there. They choose to play it safe. They don't exactly know where Broxa is. Again, that unpredictable pathing coming to fruition and saving Whippo. And again, Whippo, when he cheats forward like that, yeah, he's got the flash. He can look for the outplay, but you're like, okay, this guy's staying on the tower. Surely someone's behind him. And it opens up this type of window for Fnatic to look for a play bot.
And there's no doubt the top side is going well. Big side of OG, but Fnatic are dominating the bottom side of the map. Reckless stepping forward, the chain CC comes out, Nemesis ready to just point and click down. Mithy is going to try to move out, but Mithy survives. TP burned on the bottom side. Alphari only level 5. No threat of re-engage, but absolutely the Fnatic favorite dive.
Yeah, Origen are able to stay alive though, but at the same time it's Whippo pushing down the top lane, trying to pick up some turret plates as well. So Origen spend a lot to not lose harder in this bottom lane, but you can see the CS is starting to get a little out of hand here as Reckless is up 15.
TP now back to the top side coming in.
That's a Braum.
From Braum.
All right, give me some money. He still thinks he's playing Taric.
That's good.
I mean, you might as well.
Attack speed Braum, that's what we're going to see here.
He has the unsealed spellbook, of course, so it's not like he took the teleport himself. His flash was on cooldown from that dive, so just use that summoner to cycle through, and maybe going to set up some vision here for Alfari. I don't think looking for the gank is possible.
I'm waiting for this one, of course. Alfari does have the level 6 now, but difficult situation once again for the bottom lane. 61 CS to 38. You check at the level discrepancy. Reckless level 6 now to Patrick's level 4. Very, very difficult spot for the Ezreal to be in, and it feels like Fnatic will just probably try to rinse and repeat these dives.
I mean, the short and sweet of it is that Patrick and Mithy are in a bad way. This is not where they want to be. They're going to get dove repeatedly at this point, and it's just about what can Origen get on the other side of the map.
Yeah, Fnatic setting this up very well. They slow push this wave in bottom lane. Notice how Bwipo is pathing straight towards bot lane. Even without the TP, he's on the move. Nemesis waiting for them to return to the lane. Broxa in the river as well. So Origen are like, guys, we can't really do anything at the moment. Patrick still level 4 will continue to be denied.
And the reality is this is so much more punishing because it is something like a Mountain Drake that you're also playing for control.
Mithy gets the lead. The fight will immediately turn. Unbreakable has been used. Mithy's still alive. Now comes the flag and drag in. Hylissang has grabbed the kill. Cold and Nuked now on the tree, but Bwipo is stepping forward. Fnatic have the momentum in this fight. They're going to keep moving forward. 2 kills picked up for Fnatic.
I don't know why Cold jumped in right there. It was a brilliant setup from Fnatic, waiting inside their jungle for the pick, but then Cold just throws himself into the fire as well for 2 kills.
It's also just a bad read. You didn't have information about where Bwipo was. Origen should have just run it down the mid lane and tried to pressure the tower to force Fnatic to move out of that position. You didn't have TP on Thari. You were never going to win that.
Yeah, it really takes me back to 2018 Bwipo, who would constantly sacrifice himself in the lane, using minions to make rotation plays. Back then, it was to help Caps in the mid lane. Now, Reckless back in full carry mode for Fnatic. He gets the support once more.
We're doubling the CS of the opposition. Incredible thus far, 82 to 43. Patrick, who has looked so good in the first 2 games, now put in a severe deficit. The luxury of late game scaling no longer the threat that it once was.
I mean, to be fair to Patrick and Mithy, their job was to kind of lose as gracefully as possible to Reckless and Hylissang this entire series, just by definition of the picks that they were put on. So I don't want to just slam him for that CS discrepancy.
No, I mean, after those first few plays, this man cannot approach the wave to auto-attack Frostburn, and it feels like things are not going to get easier as Vayne gets closer and closer to that first dive. When we look back on this play, it seems like OG had the wrong read.
Yeah, Origen have no idea where Fnatic are. They were like, I thought they were in the river. Why'd they do that? Mithy gets hooked up, and Cold, it's a huge blunder by him to go in.
But again, you had the vision and the information that they weren't on the dragon. The minion wave was already forced towards the mid tower. Just hit it. Fnatic will have to respond or will have to move position.
What it was a little bit of greed from Mithy, thinking, I need to get bot lane to get towards Patrick. The fastest way possible is through river instead of looping around through his jungle, which would have been considerably more time. And maybe if he gets there, maybe if they aren't there, they can get the minion wave. But they were. Fnatic knew what to do and are now in a very good position in this game.
Good news, of course, for the side of OG. Still 2 strong points on the map in terms of top and mid lane. Cole being built by the Kennen, slowly stacking up 64 creeps, 60 rather, remaining now as it's 85 to 61, and a small CS advantage for Nuked, but Nemesis doing very well thus far on the Sissandra.
Look forward to the next minutes of the game. When is the next play around this bottom lane? You know, Origen have some summoner spells back up. Mithy, Flash, and Heal will be returning shortly, but the way Fnatic have been playing and the way they have been so successful, especially in the second half of the split, is Broxa starting his plays around mid lane. Walk up, that means Nemesis gets to go melee range to the minions, basically push up the wave, and then look for these rotations. They will constantly use their control wards inside of this river in key brushes like the Pixel or the bush Broxa is sitting in right now to make sure that that walkway down towards bottom lane is completely clear of enemy wards. And almost like Origen's best option in this case is just swap lanes and get out of this, because Fnatic will constantly be looking for the dive. The difference is Cold is under the tower.
Now pulling back here. Have to play this one perfectly or they will get taken out. Breakfast getting more and more threatening. Level 6 for the Pyke. The resets can come in, but they're trying to take down Nemesis before the fight even kicks off. He will make it back over the wall. Only 3 stacks of the concussive blow. The retreat comes in from Fnatic. Nothing else going to drop down here.
They managed to survive, but of course expending the TP there. But it was always a question of, are Origen eventually going to just trade this bot lane, sack it, and then try to get something else, trade objectives, maybe like the Herald, especially with Drake also being down, or were they going to try to set a trap? And unfortunately, I feel like they expended more, so despite the fact that they didn't die there, it still feels like a win for Fnatic.
Yeah, I mean, they're constantly trying to bail Patrick out of this lane, but it's a level 6 Ezreal at 11 minutes. Reckless is level 8, Bwipo is level 9. I mean, he is hopelessly behind here with only 61 minions to his name, and now he actually sees some movement. Alfari is very far forward, has the flash though, but Brox is behind.
Pulling back, has to be smart about how he plays this one. Ulti coming out, trying to burn out the ulti from Alfari, but I just feel like it's not the right choices. The revival is there. Alfari now set to fall, does have the stopwatch, will not use it, and Bwipo grabbing the kill.
And finally, with Origen trying to give all these resources to bail out bot lane, it leaves Alfari exposed. And I'm almost curious if this is an issue where we know that Mithy is a big voice, we know that he's been shot caller in the past. If this is Origen's intention to be focused down here because you have someone like Mithy saying, no, unlock me, unlock me, unlock me.
Oh, Cold looking for the engage, but Brox quick on the fingers to use the tunnel and escape. It is looking rough for Origen. And I like that you bring that up because it's like if Mithy has to focus so much on just staying alive in the 2v2, how do you make those calls that say Brox is headed up top somewhere?
And again, talking with Yamato, he was talking about one of the strategies was when you were facing the old school Mithy is you just camp his lane. You try to put Mithy behind because he was known as a shot caller and a very loud voice. And if you can distract him, you can slow down Origen, who are such a tempo-reliant team.
And of course, just shutting down that voice, shutting down the ability for them to make these clean calls feels like it opens up so many opportunities across the map. And Fnatic absolutely comfortable here in this game. 3K gold advantage, Reckless on the Vayne. You've got a near dream team on the top side in terms of Fnatic comfort picks. And Patrick has to be careful about how he approaches here. Still very behind in this game.
Yeah, but Origen did make the right call, I feel, to rotate up towards this top side. Unfortunately for them, Reckless is playing an AD carry that runs the teleport. So on the Vayne, he has the ability to side lane against the Kennen. Probably not great in the 1v1, or he can just reset, TP immediately back top lane, look to gain priority, damage on tower, or potentially the Herald.
And there's just a big item difference. Reckless now has his completed item. When he pops his final hour, he's also going to have all of those stats behind him. So he is a very terrifying champion at this point, and that gives Fnatic to have confidence like that, to play for the tower and the Herald at the same time.
So for a second, Nukeduck was moving up, but he decides against it. Again, Origen are in full damage control at the moment while Fnatic walk all over them. They're trying to stop the bleeding, but the Herald goes down. Top lane turret may fall before plating even drops, so this gold lead will continue to balloon more and more for Fnatic.
And it's just the idea that Origen are just watching this happen instead of trying to set up maybe pressure around the Infernal Dragon, maybe clearing out vision to try to look for a pick. They're literally just watching Fnatic take the game away from them instead of trying to make proactive plays.
Well, here we go. We got one bot.
So I thought Alfari now needs to retreat. Nukeduck going to step. Just block the creep wave, waiting to step forward now. Now going to try to block it out the point, click CC. Nemesis going to flash away to safety, but a TP now burned bot side by Bwipo. No ultimate available for the chase. Pyke now moving forward, uses the ulti. Ooh, almost gets Patrick on the shift out, but Hillsang definitely going to be in trouble. Has already dashed. We'll dash out.
Wait, they got a kill.
Now going to get more on the bottom side. Alfari using the ultimate here. Cold now coming in as well. Ultimate comes in from the Ezreal. Not going to connect on anybody. Cold most likely set to fall here.
Well, here we go. We got one bot.
Immediately taken out as Proxa finds the kill.
Fnatic just running over Origen at the moment. They get all those kills with an Infernal Dragon.
Now burned bot side by Bwipo. No ultimate available for the chase. Pyke now moving forward, uses the ulti. Ooh, almost gets
has to just kill himself. He doesn't know if Fnatic is chasing him or not, so he has to fall down. A Herald is dropped in mid lane as well, so Fnatic just take the entire map into their control.
An absolute dominance now from Fnatic in this game. We thought maybe their mental game would be broke, but you have to remember there are so many veterans on this team. The sheer amount of experience is baffling. Bwipo and Nemesis, the younger players in terms of LEC matches, but the rest of the team, veterans overall.
And it just goes back to that idea, if it's not broken, you know, don't try to fix it. Why did we even enter this best of 5 with so much priority over Sona Terra when Fnatic haven't been forced to show anything else? They go back to standard, they look so much cleaner this time around.
Putting that faith in Hillsang and Reckless, the two most experienced members of the team, and we look on the opposite side, and Fnatic now also set up to focus the youngest member of the OG lineup in Patrick, a guy who's just been repeatedly set up just to kind of survive outside of that game 1.
Yes, he has been. Oh man, still again a 2-level difference between him and Reckless. Reckless in prime position to carry, and now they're just looking for the flank here. Nukeduck doesn't have the flash. That is a fast Pyke and a Vayne coming in on the side. How do you get away from this?
Is the hook gonna go? Nukeduck is gonna back away. Oh, he's just gonna get pinned into the wall. He can't stop the Vayne from hitting him. The chain CC is gonna be brutal here. Can you get anything else out of this? Nukeduck trying to sidestep, but you just can't sidestep it. The Vayne finds the auto attacks. Reckless grabs another kill.
You know, one of the things that Origen was so good at during the regular season was just trading objectives, especially when you have the slower early game, but they are not. They're just getting beaten everywhere.
Stepping forward once again, cannot push any buttons. The chain CC from Fnatic in this game is beautiful. We heard the decks talk about how good OG is about playing this, but Fnatic now looking to match them here in this game. Alfari desperately using the ult, trying to find a kill back, but Rek'Sai goes out, comes right back up, and Bwipo now on a rampage.
Just bleeding across the map. Fnatic now, they have their pick of the litter, and it's the fact that they're taking kills and they're transitioning them into objectives, and that's why Fnatic are springboard and snowballing through this game so quickly. It's that it's a team fight onto a Herald, a team fight or a pick into a tower.
And Origen feel like they're playing on half speed right now, where play happens top lane, wait 20 seconds, then engage bottom lane. Well, Fnatic have already shown up and are ready, and they have no vision to see Rekkles and Hylissang on the chase.
And it's devastating against this type of composition. Again, you keep talking about how far Patrick is behind, but with the changes to not having access to double tier, you don't have that same, scaling potential. Yes, Ryze will do a lot of damage, and Ryze's range can match someone like Vayne, but again, there's still so many damage threats on Fnatic's comp. I think at this point, if you're this far behind as Origen's composition, you're looking for a miracle.
Absolutely the case. I mean, you look at a champion like Pyke alone, and just how strong that champion is when he gets to snowball. And Alfari, unfortunately, does not have the luxury of focusing down a single opponent in this matchup, as both the Rek'Sai and Aatrox ult are going to make them relatively hard to kill.
Now, something that has plagued Fnatic so far in this series is overreaching for objectives and for kills. Well, right now they're just reaching because Nukeduck in the same position is getting caught.
Point and click, locks down. Hylissang here as well, throws out the death from below, donates a bit more gold over to Fnatic, but it is absolute dominance here in Game 3.
Just completely different look from Origen. Just rolling over and dying right now.
And this is the Origen that I feel like was criticized so much after the G2 series, that once they fall behind, they get a little lost, they don't take the big risks, but Fnatic also, you can't fault them. They've been playing fantastically in this early game.
So now the question was answered. If we go back to standard, Fnatic still have so much teeth, so much bite behind them, but will we get this option? Is this going to be now we turn into the rest of this best of 5, whereas as long as you don't or you deny the crazy picks, Fnatic can just walk through Origen.
Now coming in the claw over the wall, of course, POV stream for Game 4. Didn't know if we were going to have one, but now it's looking a lot more likely. Hylissang or Mithy if you want to vote. The action continues in the mid lane. Once again, an explosive game. Baron not even available yet, but already Fnatic have both a Mountain and an Infernal on top of a 2-item Vayne, on top of a snowball to nearly every member of this team. So OG, once again, in this miracle position that it felt like Fnatic were in Game 1, where maybe they could have made the Sonotaric work, but we're gonna have to see if OG can execute.
Yeah, it's a commanding position here for Fnatic, and what we're specifically looking for is what have Fnatic changed in between games? Did they mend some of the issues that they had where they were diving towers, or when they get a big lead like this, can they close? They're answering that question now.
Alfari stepping forward, was now pulled back to the middle of the team. They're trying to find all the kills, but they're diving a tower once again. Bwipo gonna be resurrecting. Have to be careful here. OG not going to fall down. Flashing out to safety. Nemesis deleted. Nukeduck can now run forward here, and Fnatic overstay their welcome on the bottom side.
Towers are Fnatic's worst enemy this series. Just focus the objective. There's no need to look for these dives and give the opportunity, the chain CC or the CC potential of Braum and Ryze, as well as Alfari from Kennen. Like, don't do it.
I just don't get it. They're up 10,000 gold. They can literally just walk at towers and kill them, but Origen are just too much of a bait, I suppose. Fnatic, again, they see 5v4, it's so juicy, but there's still a teleport on towards this Ryze, and the Zhonya's means that Alfari does not get bursted down right off the bat.
Yeah, and huge credit to that Kennen ultimate. It basically split the fight and put Bwipo on one side of the Kennen ultimate and the rest of Fnatic on the other side. So while he is tanking and doing his job and underneath the tower, there's no follow-up.
Yeah, it's also like, how do you dive a Kennen and a Braum and Ezreal to get away? It's not easy.
Trying to find it. Ezreal, can they take him out? Hylissang now going to be forced to back off. He burned the flash in the earlier fight. Can they get more here? Have to be careful if that health bar gets any lower. We will see the death from below come out. Hylissang goes for a super aggressive play. He saw the flash burn in the last fight and he wanted to find the kill, but no one is there to back him up.
Nukeduck again in the side lane. He's doing a good job of farming up. He's trying to play this Ryze when the rest of his team is behind to get minions. He's been caught out before though, and now that Baron is live, this is where Fnatic can close. It becomes so much easier when you have an objective to play around that's not a tower. You know, if you force Origen to come to you, team fighting with this composition is much easier than it is by just running at them with 5 members.
I was just chuckling about that. I was like, it feels like Fnatic just get a massive buff around Baron because they just prefer to fight in jungle rather than fight in lane.
And even then in the last game too, there were questions we had about this Fnatic team. You know, with the Baron buff in particular, where they were split, whether or not they wanted to take it down or turn and fight. So there have been problems for Fnatic, even after 2 very impressive early games for this team. And we already saw a stumble here, giving 1 kill over to Origen. It's not a lot. It's not going to change the outcome of this game. But all the Fnatic fans that say they must win 3 games in a row see these cracks in the armor and wonder, can they actually do it?
Get more and more nervous, and obviously for OG, 2-0 up already, they can afford to lose a game. They do not want to. They do still have the potential to come back in this game, especially if Fnatic continues to force their fight. But a spectacular series so far for OG. Well, the momentum could shift in the favor of Fnatic for the first time if they can find this game win.
Yeah, it's not just about the momentum, it's about the mind games. You know, if Fnatic win in this composition, it basically reinforces this idea of, let's just play standard. Let's just eliminate all of the variables and we can be the better team. That is huge, especially when you're Origen, which frankly they looked really tilted when they started to lose to G2, who have not shown the ability to kind of bounce back as consistently. They need to close this series.
Very much could be about bouncing back in this game. It's about bouncing back for OG in the series. It's about bouncing back for Fnatic. Vision will go down. Nukeduck is on the bottom side. Immediately you start to see him run up.
Yeah, he doesn't have the teleport himself, so Realm Warp is his only option to enter the fight. There is a flash on this cannon. They can look for the 5 versus 5, but it's a tough one to win.
Moving over the wall, immediately they try to get the fight kicked off. Cold so incredibly low. Eyes on Hylissang where the reset's going to come in. Death from below, he can aim for Mythy, but Cold stops the resets in its tracks, but Fnatic still winning the fight. Nukeduck off to the side. Reckless looking for the 1v1. He wants to take Nukeduck out. He sees the last damage that remaining. Brock's going to be ready with the ultimate, but they're just moving forward. Nukeduck going to get taken down here, and Fnatic free access to move down the mid lane. They already got the Baron, and they may just look to crush the base.
There's only 2 members of Origen alive. They will blast this one open. Fnatic finding the mark earlier than they could in game number 2, looking to close before Origen can come online.
Huge swing of confidence for Fnatic. They could just look to end here. Patrick and Alfari, rather, for Fnatic now looking to end. Cold going to be respawning shortly. Mythy here. It could come down to one final fight. Hylissang, though, caught out in the middle of the team and just dies. What? Diving the towers once again, turns against Fnatic. And OG will hold on. The Baron buff still backing Fnatic up.
Just not respecting the death timers, as well as the fact that Fnatic didn't have the cooldowns available to them. You look at Nemesis, he doesn't have the Lissandra ultimate. That's a completely different end if you can threaten with the potential dive from Lissandra. But again, underneath their own arrogance, Fnatic don't close the game. They just collapse.
They're tilting me with these turret dives. Like, come on.
Of course, still have a 10k gold lead. Still very much have enough time left on the Baron buff to try to end this game, but have to give a bit more respect to OG, and in that case, the death timers.
But how many times are we going to say you just got to give a bit more respect to these tower dives? You can play the game more methodical, a little bit slower here. The towers are yours. The game is yours, Fnatic. You don't need to be so greedy.
And of course, for Hylissang, has to respect the Braum a little bit more in those exchanges. Not the mobility of the Pike, not quite as fantastic once you have been stacked up on the concussive blows. And as we look back at the fight, you can see Fnatic playing this one beautifully.
Yeah, Origen know the only way they win is if they fully commit to a fight. So unfortunately, they just don't have the damage. It's Patrick there from the start. Nukeduck is zoned on the bottom. Reckless eventually chases him away, but there's no Alfari as well. So you're fighting 3v2 effectively at the start, so it's numbers favored for Origen, but you have absolutely no damage with this Ezreal that just got completely bodied in the lane phase.
Just shows the mindset from Fnatic and Reckless in particular. The fact that he's flashing forward at the Rise because he knows he can go for the duel.
Yeah, and Reckless, of course, at an incredibly strong point, has the Phantom Dancer now as well. So in terms of dueling, this Vayne is terrifying. Nukeduck now 1-4. And after the monumental performance there in Game 2, surprising to see him knocked down so far, but that is the strength of Fnatic in this game.
Feels like the Phantom Dancer changes were really kind of what put the crit ADCs over the top, the fact that it gives you that lifeline passive now, and really took a lot of wind out of Ezreal sails. You know, it felt like Ezreal kind of sat in the same position on the tier list, but every other ADC jumped above him because he can't itemize into Phantom Dancer like they can and get all of these defensive and offensive benefits.
Yeah, especially for those shorter range carries like the Vayne here, as Fnatic press on forward towards this tower. They're teleporting behind Origen, are looking for the fight to try and keep their hopes alive.
Realm Warp now coming in with a position right against the wall. Far onto the backside, focusing down. Hylissang immediately turning back. That's a beautiful start to the fight. 2 members immediately deleted. Now is the time to turn, but Bwipo is alive and well. Brock's leaping forward, trying to lock down 1 member. He's going to try to take down Nukeduck. Now that's 1. Looking for Alfari next. The ultimate already burned. The fight turning against them. Fnatic, I cannot believe it. Reckless and Hylissang die immediately, but in what is a 3v5, Nemesis, Bwipo, and Broxa are going to try to find the turn. Alfari looking for the outplay. Smite comes in, looking for the knockup. Is going to get him down. 1, 2. That's going to be it. Fnatic right here, their backs against the wall. They find the fight. They turn the fight against Origen, and they are going to find the win to bring themselves back into the series.
The reverse sweep is still on the cards here for Fnatic. A dominant showing in the early game up against Origen. And at the end, they didn't even need their bottom lane. Their bottom lane that got everything in this match. It was still 3v5 and they pulled out the victory.
But it completely changes the dynamic of this best of 5. Are we going to see Origen now try to run back with a standard-oriented composition? 5v5, let's just play it out.
At those early replays, it kind of is a perfect fit because you want Fnatic to play to the bot lane, and you also know that was a weak point for OG versus G2. So then I asked myself the question, why didn't you do this the last two games? What enabled them to do it this game?
I mean, first of all, the Zona Taric is out of it, so that helps a lot. And honestly, having this kind of setup, especially with Brox and Cole kind of trading sides, allowed them to play to the bottom side way earlier than they usually can. Whereas OG had no response whatsoever and couldn't actually respond to the early dive.
I feel like OG is very prepared for these cocktail situations when new champions appear because they are known for their versatility. Fnatic is known for their foundation. They have the same picks over and over and they make it work because they've actually achieved mastery on these champions.
Yeah, and one of the picks we highlighted in their dream composition is the Aatrox for Bwipo. And I also don't think he's had the best day so far. But now in this game, he goes absolutely off on his favorite pick. So that's good, because if you know that you're sometimes taking fights that aren't that favorable in games 1 and 2, and you need to be proactive, you want Bwipo to play like this. The problem is that it's a double-edged sword. So what do you guys make of this guy in Fnatic and how he's been playing so far?
I think he has been really volatile. In some games he has been carrying, in other games he has been feeding there's no tomorrow. But I think it's more about how they play around, and I think whenever he has some kind of resources coming into him, where Broxah or especially Nemesis roam towards the top lane, he's actually playing really well. So he needs some kind of advantage in the game to basically play off of, and if he doesn't have that, he's basically going to be too volatile for his own good.
Can that be himself in a good lane matchup, or help from the jungler, or is it only by help from the jungler?
I think it's by the help of the jungler and by the help of the mid laner, because honestly, Alphari is too good in lane to actually do anything against, and I think given actually like having the Ken Aatrox matchup is maybe even bad for them, whereas I think they can opt into something like the Vladimir and basically just play a bit safe on the top lane, don't allow Bwipo to play into that.
I feel like it's so crazy because Alphari is one of the best top laners in terms of laning that we have in Europe. But I feel like the resources that he's getting from his team, they're just not there. We saw the Nemesis ganks, we saw also the Broxah ganks. Great timing ganks, but absolutely no impact from Cold in the top lane. And it makes me question the champion choice in Kennen, as Amazing just said.
Yeah, we're going to take a look at the whole draft actually from the side of OG. And of course, the thing that jumps out here as well is it's the first time we see standard versus standard. In a position where it's standard versus standard, how much lower do OG's chances get?
I think plenty much lower, especially if they decide to pick the Braum into the Vayne. I think Vayne gets a free matchup. I feel like there's no creativity there. I want to see the Tahm Kench, I want to see the utility coming from the bot lane, and a kind of situation where the mid lane can transition the pressure into the bottom as well.
Yeah, I would not just like to see utility. Honestly, if you play against Fnatic, you have to shut down Reckless in some kind of way. So honestly, playing lane-centric champions like the Ashe, like the Varus maybe even would be good for them, instead of opting for an Ezreal who's just going to scale and be counterpicked, and then you give basically everything that Fnatic wants to them.
Now, Amazing, you were of course in the position where you played versus Fnatic in the summer finals. You guys won game 1 very convincingly. You also had Nukeduck, you also had Gyotto, but you guys lost steam. You also went for that Ezreal pick further in the series. Are you starting to see similarities, and do you think there's a problem in kind of the choices that OG makes when the series go on in confidence?
Maybe Gyotto is not as confident as he sometimes likes to say is or should seem to be. I think in some kind of crucial things, and especially crucial situations like this one, he has to just put the foot down and say, okay, we're going to play the style that we've learned, we're going to continue to play it and not defer from it. And I think that's something that I've seen multiple times now, where he just honestly has to be more confident in himself, because his pick bands, when they're on, they're on.
Yeah, I completely agree, and that's also why he's coach of the split. And I think, you know, the way we speak about Fnatic after only getting 1 win, I think goes back to how we talked about them at the beginning of the show, Yamato, because you said these guys, they have what it takes to take that step, you know, to go further. So if you give them 1 game, you have to be scared of them. However, I don't want to go too far, because OG crushed them in the first 2 games, and it's very hard for me to think about what's going to happen in this series going forward in that regard.
I feel like OG, probably they need to pick blue side. I don't know what side they're going to choose, but I feel like they need to free up some bans, because they're banning Kayle, Sylas, and all of a sudden Vayne is a big issue. They couldn't find a way to shut it down. Draven was also getting banned. I feel like they need to bring up another trick that they had up their sleeve, because always when they know what's coming towards them, they bring up the insane drafts that actually manhandles the enemy team.
Yeah, and if you're OG, you know that in game 4, they're going to pick something again from Fnatic that works for Reckless. And you know they're going to go towards that bottom lane. I think that's something that's a given. So do you then work specifically to shut that down, Maurice? Because Reckless is the guy that played out of his mind last game.
And you just got to do it. Honestly, Reckless, and there's so many things you can say about him. Yeah, maybe in the regular season he sometimes doesn't show up, or he has some kind of weird things happening where he's like too focused on certain champions. But when it counts, honestly, he is clutch. He will win you games no matter what. So if you don't attack him early and you basically just shut it down completely, where he doesn't feel comfortable at all, and he maybe has to scale into 3-4 items and cannot power spike as early as he did this game, Fnatic is a different team, and Reckless is a different player. So they have to do that and then see where that goes and where it leads them.
Is this all boiling down to what happens in the bot lane? Yes, if the jungles visit or not, but are those the matchups that are going to decide the series?
For sure, because if we look at the other side of the map, I feel like the impact that the kind of pressure they create towards Afari is just non-existent. And then we speak about which players are going to enable the gameplay of course, OG is always Nuktak and Mythi. Right now, Nuktak is getting the good matchups, but nothing is happening for Mythi. Sonatarek was fancy, the Blitzcrank was good, then all of a sudden you saw the Mythi that has those MVP performances with the Blitz, hooking everyone all over the place. I want to see something similar. Yeah. I personally want to see a Tahm Kench and an Ashe.
A Tahm Kench
with a Vayne ban. With a Vayne ban.
Tahm Kench is the worst performing support in Europe, and Mythi is 2 wins, 4 losses on it. So
those 4 losses were very early.
Okay, it doesn't count. It doesn't count. So let's look ahead then. OG, they picked blue side for the next game. That's a change of pace, right? Now they find themselves on the blue side. Where are they going? Are they looking for the pick for Nuktak? Are they waiting? What's the plan?
I think honestly, if I were them, I would just go for jungle pile. I basically just pick the strong jungle champion there is, maybe opt for the Rek'Sai again. Because honestly, I think in this series, especially against someone like Boxer, who is really, really good at the early game, especially when he has a jungle player matchup, you have to take that away to a certain extent. I think on blue side, you can do that easily. The Kinner didn't look that strong for them either, so why not opt for the Rek'Sai if it's open?
I feel like blue side is the wiser choice because they need to free up some bans. They need to create space to ban because Silas is a permaban on red, and something that they've been banning the entire series is the KO. They have now room to ban the Vayne, ban the Lissandra. They can create situations where they can dictate the pace more. Because I don't think Nuktak will be in a worse matchup just because he blind picks. I think it's all about just freeing up bans and creating a situation where they get a better bot lane draft.
Yeah, because mentality-wise, you know, you're still on match point. And that's a tough one because you know you just lost that game and it seems like you're up against it. But you got to remember, you're on match point. 1 game and you're in that final. What are your gut feelings say? What does your gut feeling say? Is Origen closing it out or are we going to game 5?
I'm seeing a game 5 coming. It has to happen too.
Ooh.
I feel like if I could see the draft before I make my prediction, I feel like it would be way easier. Like if OG can like put up, like have another trick up the sleeve, I'm very confident in my prediction. But right now, Fnatic, if they can continue at the same path, we're going to have a game 5. We're going to have a beautiful series at their hands.
Fantastic. Well, it was do or die for Fnatic, and it still is. They did secure a crucial win to stay in the series, and game 4 is coming up next. Don't miss it.
Broxa now stepping forward. Patrick has to be careful about how he's going to focus. One does move out. Now the immediate knockup is going to follow. Patrick all but set to fall. First blood. Unbreakable has been used. Mythi's still alive. Now comes the flag and drag in. Hylissang has grabbed the kill. Cold and Nuktak now on the tree. But Whippo is stepping forward. Fnatic have the momentum in this fight. They're going to keep moving forward.
Is a drum here? Just kill these kids. I like it a lot.
2 members immediately deleted. Now is the time to turn, but Whippo is alive and well. Broxa leaping forward, trying to lock down 1 member. He's going to try to take down Nuktak. Now that's 1. Looking for Alfari next. The ultimate already burned. They find the fight. They turn the fight against Origen, and they are going to find the win to bring themselves back into the series.
Fisher, thank you for joining me. There was no way we wouldn't talk to you when your team is playing on stage. So what are you doing backstage today?
Well, we obviously spend most of the time today, Xpec and I, with the booth we have outside with all the fans. Then during the games, I was hoping to sit down and relax and watch Origen just win a bunch of games, and you know, great start. But obviously last game was pretty rough for the guys, so hopefully we bounce back. Yeah, great start. As you said, you're still a game ahead and the next one could be the last. So what happened in Game 3? You looked so confident. I mean, I think it seemed in Game 3 Fnatic got exactly what they wanted. The Vayne obviously got the first, or they dove the bot turret and secured like an advantage there, which is exactly what they want. Patrick was really far down. So I think Fnatic got to execute what I consider the Fnatic strategy, where you get Reckless going on something that can really take over the game. I think going forward, I'm sure the guys will adapt to that as well. And to me, this was just one-off game. I think the first two games have been really fantastic to watch. Game 1 on our side, amazing, and Game 2, the comeback, really showing strength there. So I'm looking forward to Game 4 right now. Good to hear. I'm looking forward to it too. Now, let me throw you something. What is your take on Origen having a hard time getting the momentum when in difficult situations, like we've seen earlier? I think it's obviously a very hard question. I don't think there is any issue there specifically. I think when you play against a team like Fnatic or G2, there's just so many skilled players on both sides that it's really, really hard to say that like one team should just get the momentum and then run with it or try and get it. I think in this case here, strategy is a huge part of it in the draft. I think we have shown now that we can beat Fnatic. I think Fnatic has shown in the last game they can beat us, which sets it up very nicely for the next game. But I think we actually have mentally very, very strong players. And we also have Fabian and our sports psychologist behind the team to always make sure that they can actually refocus. And I'm expecting them to bounce back super strong. And
we'll see about that in a few minutes. Now, you were mentioning some kind of booth, I think, before. Nice. So we got many team booths right now in the Ahoy Arena, but why should we pay a visit to the Origen booth?
There's a lot of reasons for that. I mean, first of all, it's the Origen booth, right? That should almost be reason enough. But both me and Expect are going to be there all the time from 12 p.m. and forward. So you come meet us, take pictures. We have a super sick photo booth where you can go in and do like a really fun experience where you have to pose like the pros in a funny way and see how good you are. Hint, hint, Amazing was actually really good. So go check out his Twitter for that one. And we also have a gaming station if you just want to come play. And you can also sign up for our new fan club that we have with Origen for free. So we have a bunch of stuff happening, and I hope to see everyone there tomorrow.
Great. Now you guys know where to go. Thank you, Martin, for your time.
Thank you.
And back to the casters for the game.
Deficio trading out analysis for a distinct love of booths. Always interesting, of course, here's insight on the team. And I think exciting as we head into this next game to see exactly what the mentality is going to look like for both these squads, how exactly they want to draft. As a reminder, you can check out Hylissang's POV stream over at twitch.tv/riotgames2. Maybe we get a Pike game again.
That'd be
Maybe
sick.
not. It's always tough to tell with the POV streams. I feel like every time we swap to a player, they always immediately go play one of the more boring champions in their role. But since Hylissang is not a Tom Kench player,
you need to be a better sellout like Deficio.
Cautiously optimistic.
Okay, you can work on it.
All right.
I do have some answers about that draft, though, because you were kind of proposing, it's game 4. Fnatic now get that mental reassurance that, yes, if it is standard that they can win. Now, the losing team gets to pick side selection, so Origen have opted into the blue side. And we were actually talking about this before draft.
Exactly, because what we're wondering is, does Origen ban the Sona like Fnatic did on blue side? Right off the bat, I'm inclined to believe no, because when Fnatic ran it in game 1, Origen had absolutely no problem with that. So then that asks the question, does Fnatic ban it on red side because they can't play it up against Origen, who can shut them down early? You're wondering if they trade out a ban, potentially something like the Karthus, they could remove in favor of that pick, but no, they banned it away right off the bat.
Sona ban going to be coming out, but the Vayne ban as well, limiting some of those champions for Reckless to play, making sure he can't be comfortable.
So the kind of staple 2 bans from red side from Fnatic have been Draven and Sylas, and with one of those bans being expended to the Sona, one of these champions is going to get through, and with the champion pool shrinking from Reckless, I'm curious if they're going to take away the Draven just so Patrick can't throw down the axe and say, okay, what do you have to take this on?
Yeah, you almost have to ban the Draven because you're not going to pick it yourself for Reckless. He hasn't proven himself to be a Draven player. So with Sylas open, Origen, of course, are going to lock that in. There's so many options you can use with this pick. You steal enemy ults, have a great team fight, have a great laning phase. He just basically does it all.
And now I feel like we're forced into a situation where Fnatic have to pick an AD carry in these first 3 picks at some point. It might be the first rotation, it might be that last pick on red side, but the pool for Reckless is shrinking by the minute now. However, we do get, once again, a comfort pick for Broxah in the jungle.
I mean, the pick that you would assume that Reckless is going to go for is something like the Kai'Sa in tandem with Hilly's Alistar, but I doubt that we're going to see those champions paired up together. They'll probably get one or the other, and then Origen will deny the rest.
Difficult here now already with the Sylas being locked in. We see Lissandra on the opposite side. When Sylas first came out, I felt like a lot of times the answer was to just not draft useful ults, but already getting 2 that give him a ton of kill pressure in the mid lane, paired as well now with the Skarner.
Okay, so it's going to be the Skarner and not the Jarvan. Of course, this was banned in the last game, so Cold prefers to stick on this champion, force Fnatic to pay the QSS tax, and use that single target lockdown to initiate fight. Now for Nukeduck, the Rise is still open for him. He's proven that he's comfortable playing that up into the Lissandra, but has not been a pick that he's been able to overly dominate on so far this series.
And when it comes to support champion pools, there are very few unique individual picks, Pyke being one that goes into the pocket of Hylissang, but the Tahm Kench, something that's unique to Mithy in terms of this matchup, something Hylissang almost never touches, but we have seen OG, when they can get control of the early game, take over the map with a pick like Tahm Kench.
But they usually pair it in tandem with something like the Ashe or possibly even the Varus. So the thing that Tahm Kench lacks is, of course, the wave control and the wave priority down there, so you need an AD carry that can push quite safely, and then when you pair it with the Ashe, you have so much global utility between the Abyssal Voyage and the Enchanted Arrow.
Yeah, and what that plays into is the 1-3-1 style that we've seen Origen be successful with. You can have a Sylas in a side lane or a strong split-pushing mid laner for Nuke Duck. The Tahm Kench is very good at just being mid lane and having the ability to show up in those side lanes if Fnatic were looking to collapse and punish a split pusher.
And with the top side of the map now locked in for Fnatic, I expect we will see more bot side focused bans. The Rakan not only taken away from Hylissang, but making the Xayah option a little less appealing for Rekkles as a champion pool once again just continues to shrink.
And that's the idea. It's okay, what do we know Rekkles will play? Well, he doesn't have access to the Sona this time around, so you're looking at the old school Xayah, the Kai'Sa maybe, and if they really just want to punch Rekkles, then you ban something like a Kai'Sa here, or possibly even an Alistar to make the Kai'Sa less viable.
And you pointed out earlier the Ashe plus Varus picks that Patrick would potentially love to have here. The Varus does get banned away, but Ashe is untouched. The Ezreal also hasn't been found. I'm not sure if Patrick wants to return to that champion they just got messed with in that last game. That was not a good look for him on the Ezreal, but of course it has been a consistent pick for him that he's done pretty well on.
And
so
Ezreal Tahm Kench, though, does feel like hard conceding on the bottom side of the map.
True.
It means that we can expect Origen to play more around the top side, but these last 8 seconds, I think, are going to tell us a lot as we see Fnatic's 4th pick here. And the Pyke being locked in is a huge confidence statement from Hylissang.
Yeah, Pyke also not too bad into the Tahm Kench. You can blast through the shield. If he uses that too late with the ultimate, that'll just execute targets. And you can try to pull people away from the Tahm Kench with some of the utility in your kit.
But it's also the fact that they're giving last pick to Rekkles, trying to get him more information about what he's facing in that bot lane. So this still tells me that Fnatic have the same strategy of it is going to be about the bot lane. We need all of the information possible to sculpt out a winning lane phase for Hilly and Rekkles.
And this makes me think that it is going to be a Jinx or a Tristana, that they are trying to find one of the last remaining 3-item carries for Rekkles to pick up, something that he can be comfortable on. This is why they would want that perfect information.
I actually really like the GP. So GP has been flamed a lot when the LEC top laners lock it in, just because he is so diveable. But when you have a GP, when you have something like an Ashe, and when you're facing a team like Fnatic who like to play around the bot lane, GP's ultimate means so much there because he doesn't have to participate in the fight. He doesn't need the teleport available. And again, it's throwing down the gauntlet and saying, okay, Mithy Patrick, now you get a cannon barrage on top of it. Can you hold this Fnatic bot lane?
In the end, it will not be a 3-item carry. It'll be the 2-item Kai'Sa. And of course, important for Rekkles to find some comfort in that bot lane phase. But the GP now locked in, commits Nuke Duck to the mid lane with the Sylas and so many potentially explosive matchups here in the early game.
Yeah, I do like the style here from Fnatic. Another game where they don't necessarily have the cleanest front-to-back team fight later on, but they have a super explosive mid game where they have many dive tools to try and catch you out. Because again, Origen with this composition are looking to spread out across the map and slowly burn you down. Fnatic are going to be trying to attack and stopping that from happening.
But again, the Origen have to survive the lane phase,
True.
and GP can be punished. He can be dove. Rek'Sai Aatrox is so scary and potent. My eyes are actually on Broxah and Bwipo to get some love this game and really try to put Alphari down.
Terrifying, though. If we enter the mid game, the potential for global pressure with the Ashe ultimate, the Tahm Kench, the Gangplank as well. And in the nightmare scenario where OG could find a lead in the early game, Sylas with Pyke ult is disgusting. But here we are, folks. Once again, it is match point. OG have built their advantage, and now they can look to cash it in with one final game. But I imagine Fnatic and the Fnatic fans in the audience will have something to say about that. They are waiting for a Game 5, for another Fnatic win, and for Silver Scrapes to potentially carry home a Fnatic victory.
And Origen staring them down. One win away from the rematch in Rotterdam up against G2. It's within their grasp now, Dracos. All they need is that one final nexus. And they're going to the finals.
Pressure on both sides, no doubt. And it feels like both teams, to a certain degree, getting a lot of comfort in this draft. We've got the Ashe Tahm Kench, very quintessential Origen-style bot lane. And if you want to talk about them playing that Korean style, that clean macro style, You know, the Prey and Gorilla special showing up here on stage. But this is it, ladies and gentlemen. It is do or die once again for Fnatic. There is no rest for them after their first 2 losses, and OG going to look to close it out right here.
Level 1, eyes on Fnatic. You can see a trap possibly set up for Origen, so definitely doing their homework and scouting something out, and we'll see what NukeDuck's able to do here against Rekkles.
This is a classic, the dash over the wall. Last time we saw it, it was Hylissang's Rakan, I believe. Abscond, abduct, ready and available. If they shut down Rekkles early on, it very quickly set the pace for this game. Dash forward, holding onto the stun. NukeDuck is just going to walk away. We'll give up a decent amount of lane pressure by starting with that instead of the chain lash into the mid lane.
Well, actually, a lot of the times with Sylas, because you get 2 casts on the E, you can access your passive twice on that first wave, so it's really not a bad spell to take. You also get the shield as well, so even as a melee champion, you're going to be walking up to the wave, approaching, and be able to soak up an auto attack or 2 incoming from Lysandra and try to contest for that level 1 push.
Alphari trying to sidestep here, but a lot of damage Whippo's laying down. Corrupting Pot is going to help him heal back up to full if Alphari wants to do it. Grasp as well. But reminder that you can check out Hylissang's POV. Twitch.tv/RiotGames2 is the place as we talk about how important this bottom side is for Fnatic.
And for once, the POV stream didn't get baited. We finally have another really exciting champion on Hilly pulling out his pike, so good work there. Now what I was curious about is which jungler was going to play for the top grab. I think it's really important for Broxah here to secure this for Whippo, so again, you can try to abuse this matchup, and that's why it's also so important that Nemesis is fighting hard for that priority. But you see the on the way ping, Cold wants to stop that.
Yeah, and at the same time, Broxah is doing the path that Cold actually introduced to the LEC on Rek'Sai, where you start on the Wolves, go to red, go to Krugs, you get a very quick level 3 on the Rek'Sai, and also can confuse your opponents when you come up and look for a gank at awkward timings. He will see Cold walk into the river, so will not be able to contest for that top crab, and probably won't be able to find a gank either.
XP advantage for now, though, will go in the favor of Broxah, but you can see Cold now moving forward, moving into the mid lane. Nemesis has to be careful here, only level 2. Did he take the claw? We're not going to get a chance to find out. It looks like he will back off, and now eyes on the top lane. Alphari with almost no mana. Whippo potentially in trouble. Broxah now ready to step forward. Where's the flash going to be from Alphari? Has to time this one well. Whippo in trouble. The flash forward, but a perfect knockup from Broxah denies it right there. Cold needs to pick his target. Alphari's already dead. Has to get to Whippo. Biding his time, but if he overcommits here, he will just die as well. Whippo going to dash out to safety zone. Incredibly low red, but ticking! Is it going to do it? No, regen is just too much!
So much expended right there, and Whippo walks away, also has access to the TP, and the wave's in a great spot for him.
That gank should not have worked. We actually saw right before it happened, Cold used a danger ping on the top tri-brush. He knew where Broxah was, but was not able to show up fast enough. Alphari thought he could make the 2v1 happen, but unfortunately was just so close and couldn't finish the kill.
And how many Fnatic victories have started with Whippo surviving when he absolutely should not? That was the story of the Vitality series. OG need to come back from this.
And the mentality is that once this top crab goes down, you think there's no reason for Broxah to be here. He doesn't have anything to farm. So again, it's that creative early pathing that the crab is down. Alphari, you're probably fine to be this far forward. Surprise, here's Broxah.
Yeah, I just don't understand because they literally called it out. They knew what was going to happen. Now Broxah really wants to shut down Alphari, but it's too far into the tower.
And you have to feel like Alphari just committed to the play, thinking he could find the kill and make it a 1-for-1 because he was 30 health away. And he was so incredibly close, but now it's turned this matchup against him. Despite that, though, managing to hold on to the CS advantage, and of course Gangplank will still be relevant at that level 6 across the map.
Yeah, I would be surprised to see Broxah dive. If you're remembering game number 3, then you're like, oh yeah, here we go. But without the flashes on these 2 top laners and with the remove Scurvy for Gangplank, it's not the easiest play to pull off. Also keep in mind that crucially, NukeDuck finally has the push in this mid lane. It's one of the reasons why we see Sylas banned so often, because even as a melee champion, he can very easily push through these waves and stop you from moving around into a player like Nemesis.
It's also the fact that you're dealing with multiple teleports. You have to make sure that if you went for a top lane, it has to be on point, it has to be done quickly. Otherwise, multiple TPs, multiple people in your lane, and you're punished for overreaching again.
As we look across the map, it just feels like very high stakes in every single lane, and no one wants to be the one to mess up so far top. Just the big point is Alphari did kind of fail in that exchange, but the bottom side doing well so far, kind of waiting and biding their time. Ashe alone, getting a lot of that lane pressure early on with just the power of the volley, but Rekkles and Hylissang firing back, and the level 6 point for this bot side, on both sides, really terrifying.
Yeah, both sides just TPing back, gonna get the push down now. Of course, Patrick going to be itemizing into the Blade Ruin King first. Get that extra sustain and the damage here on the Ashe, who, when she builds the Runans especially, that's an item you don't usually see on a lot of different carries. She gets a lot of AoE damage and can proc the slow onto multiple people. So good itemization here from the Ashe. Of course, top lane Cold is up here.
But once again, the focus, the TP's now coming in. How much time can he buy? He's almost immediately going to be deleted off the face. Alphari is going to pick that one up, and Reckless burning his TP now to the top side. We'll pick up some farm here, but not an ideal exchange.
Now I wonder, is Fnatic just going to full commit to the lane swap? Because Hylissang is running towards the top side of the map. They may just go ahead and do it, because if you look at the CS differential bot side, Reckless down a little bit. He's down 10 currently, and Patrick, Mithy are going to be hard pushing in. They may just be totally comfortable taking the lane swap and saying, we'll get out of the 2v2, we'll get out of the 1v1 and look to burn and trade towers.
The only scary thing there is that it is a Mountain Drake, and we've heard pros continuously talk about how fundamental that dragon can be for early Barons. No flash.
Sorry.
Good footwork.
Look at this bot lane, though. Broxah snuck down in here. There is an Aatrox. It's going to be hard to pull this one off, though, with all summoner spells in the OG duo.
Making sure that he can farm safely for now. We'll clear out that wave, stop any more tower plating from falling. 2, though, going in the favor of OG is going to give them a small gold advantage here early on in what was, honestly, a very chaotic series of play as we have the lane swaps coming out.
Now with Fnatic recalling, I think they might actually just go ahead and gun pack bot lane. They lost 2 turret plates and weren't able to get any of their own. So it wasn't ideal for Fnatic, it seems, to make this swap happen. Of course, they were in a tough position when Reckless was called up for the teleport, thinking maybe they could keep Whippo alive, but he was just level 5 and didn't have the ability to make it back. So they will come back bot lane, go even, and hope to maybe make a play in the coming minutes.
Yeah, and it's not about just absorbing the spells from Reckless and, you know, putting him a little bit farther, that step behind Patrick. It also then buys Alphari time. So it's really nice for Origen that they've now itemized into the Sheen, that Alphari is going to have his flash back up and available, and he will have the cannon barrage up soon. So there's more opportunity as Origen just kind of like absorbed the last minute and a half with this weird lane swap type of situation.
It's a little bizarre, but both teams, I think, surprisingly comfortable in this exchange. I imagine that after we saw the lane swap kind of originate in that Splice series, that nearly every team was probably practicing it, if they weren't already, to figure out exactly what they could do in these quick-fire lane swap scenarios. But now waiting to see the level 6s come in. Patrick and Mithy still only level 5 each. Reckless with that solo XP top lane, already the level 6, so could try to use that to make a play here. Hylissang, Reckless moving in. Pyke, I believe, spotted as he was coming on the stealth up, and of course Nukeduck would have gotten a warning as he got closer, but they will back off, so no roam mid lane this time around.
Does feel like the game's maybe a little bit slower than Fnatic would have liked it to be. Currently, it's just 1-1 on the scoreboard, 8 minutes into the game. It's definitely felt like the slowest game we've had so far all series, which, if that is the case, then you do give the scaling advantage, the ability to play 1-3-1 over towards Origen. As it has not been the same story in this bottom lane. Patrick is doing just fine. He has not gotten attention from Broxah to be shut down just yet.
I mean, for me, this Mountain Dragon is just so important for Fnatic specifically because you have someone like Kai'Sa. So if you have Mountain on top of Kai'Sa, your ability to just shred through objectives can completely change this game. If Origen try to play those side lanes and Fnatic just walk towards Baron and say, okay, we have Mountain, we have Kai'Sa, you must fight us.
Yeah, can definitely be the case sometimes. Now, I'm looking at this draft again from Origen. I actually really like the Ashe plus Tahm Kench, and it's one of those things where you usually talk about the Varus and Ashe as interchangeable, but specifically in this game, Patrick has been using the Hawk Shot to spot out Broxah in his pathing, and that is so crucial here if you are on the side of Origen, making sure that he can't find those plays around the bottom lane and that Cold can track him.
Reminder that Nemesis has no cleanse here. And he goes, he's going to look for the point. Click does lock him down. The Thought not going to come out. They're just going to chain all the CC together. The Abscond, the Abduct, the Impale, literally everything they can throw at Nemesis has been thrown. But his own ulti now coming out to buy a bit more time. But OG are first on the rotation with the power of that Tahm Kench, and they will find the kill.
Broxah sneaking away the Dragon. Origen, I don't even think had priority in bot lane. They made the call to make the rotation up towards the mid lane. They say, we don't have to play through bottom lane. Nukeduck is the primary carry of this team, and the solo lanes of Origen are doing so well.
Now Fari actually dominating on the top side of the map is huge for this team. I mean, when we look at Whippo, he is absolutely the high risk, high reward kind of player, and it honestly just feels like right now Alphari has his number, and that's never usually a good sign for Fnatic.
Hold on, skirmish bot.
Both sides can back off.
Just a quick trade there from Fnatic. High risk, high reward, Whippo, of course. A lot of isolated deaths. Lots of deaths to the 15s, but he gets some solo kills as well, so Why not?
It's not just about, you know, what top laner gets what solo deaths, how much you fall down in CS, because statistics don't tell the whole story. I think what's interesting about Alphari and Bwipo is so many pros talk about how potent Alphari is in his individual lane, how he is an incredibly smart laner, he knows how to manipulate the wave control, he knows a lot of different sides of matchups, whereas Bwipo, it feels like he's more focused on how he interacts with Fnatic as a team. You know, he's fine to go down in the CS, he's fine to be the big tank, and kind of like his responsibility to the higher composition. And I think that's what matters more in finding the difference between these top laners.
Hold that thought. Patrick now stepping forward, has burned the ultimate. Reckless now has to run. They're going to back off. The tongue lash is there. Patrick, flash out. Hillsang, not going to get the ulti there. They are going to return.
Really good trading, yeah. Mithy and Patrick. Mithy also using the Devour to make sure Patrick couldn't be flipped underneath the tower there and take any extra damage on the back end. So there's a very different story. And once again, it's cold around this middle lane. This is something I was asking for after game number 3. Put some priority, put some emphasis on allowing Nukeduck to shove up and play forward. And all of a sudden, it's Origen with complete control over the other areas of the map because they can move first.
Now Broxah wants to get something back on the top side as he sees his bottom lane falling apart. Cold already moving down to the bottom side. They're looking to get that tower first blood. Broxah hoping to catch Alphari out. All Gangplank ultimate being used. This will clear the wave. This will stop any threat of a dive unless they can try to force right now on the side of Fnatic. But no, good play from Alphari, kind of sniffing out the dive and using that ult just to clear away the wave.
And again, it was a question about how confident they were going to be. Like you said, of course, Alphari could see the entire play before his eyes. Expertly played, says, no, I'm not even going to give you the opportunity. But also then Fnatic saying, we're not going to try to force this. Maybe 2 games ago, Fnatic would have tried for that play.
Yeah, that's been something that plagues them sometimes when they over-push for those advantages. Now, quietly, while Fnatic only have the 1 kill, is Bwipo gonna have to get away. He doesn't have the ultimate quite yet, but Broxah was able to sneak away both the Mountain Drake as well as the Rift Herald. So it's not the early game performance that I think a lot of Fnatic fans would have liked to see, where it's heavy kill early game, putting money into Reckless's pocket, but instead is much more objective focused here from Fnatic, and they can hope to try and push back in terms of gold at the moment, because right now they are down, but the Herald should equalize that a bit.
But the game feels like it's kind of on this knife edge where we're just about to open up the map, where towers are going to start going down with kind of the next rotation of ultimates, and once we're on an open map, I really like Origen's composition. You talked about the power of Ashe and Kench. One of the coolest things about Ashe is when she decides to go mid, that she can fire the arrow from Fog of War and just completely kill the mid lane tower kind of in one go, depending on who your ultimate hits.
Yeah, and when you're thinking about Fnatic trying to force engagements of their own while Origen are splitting up the map, you wonder where is the hard engage from them. Yes, you have Lissandra, but she's relatively low range. Can you get on top of them? The Pike as well isn't the best tool necessarily. So in games where they have heavy leads early on, where they have control of the map, it's very easy to execute on when the enemy has to come to you when they don't know where you are. But if Origen continues to play this slow style where they have vision advantages, they won't ever die to plays that Fnatic try to make.
Bot lane tower will fall in favor of OG, but the Herald has been used top, and Bwipo steps forward to proxy the wave to make sure he can get some damage down here. Now, while gold is going into the pockets of the OG bottom lane, Bwipo going to take a lot of solo gold on the back of this Rift Herald play. We'll start to balance out this lane matchup.
And you could see how vital that was between the gold difference that finally put him ahead of Alphari, because he has been sitting behind, or step behind this GP.
Well, the thought hook does come out. Mithy has to be careful. That there on the hill saying they're trying to disengage, but no, in the meantime, play coming out on the top side. It's just going to be Bwipo being deleted here. Alphari and Cold going to find the play.
Yeah, Bwipo didn't even get a chance to pop the ultimate. Now Fnatic wanting to make a play of their own in the mid lane. Broxah and Reckless are here, but can they make it happen?
Has connected on the Patrick, but now Mithy's going to try to save him. The flash out to safety. Patrick, the engage there, denied. The Tom Kench coming in clutch.
Yeah, Origen are able to win 2 areas of the map at the same time. It's Cold going top lane and mid lane as well, taking a very good trade here. Origen have just a really solid grasp on this game.
But I feel like there's a tempo mismatch here because Origen just used a lot of their key ultimates and the Infernal spawns in 6 seconds. Whereas you look across the side of Fnatic, they have access to everything that they want as well as priority over the mid lane. So while it looked like Origen, you know, we're picking up Bwipo, we're trying to make these plays into the mid lane, it's Fnatic who will have early rotation into Infernal.
It's true, but Origen do look like they want to contest. Cold and Alphari both went for a reset. Cold immediately pathing down towards this side. Alphari was not so sure. He went a little bit, then he's back towards this top lane, and Fnatic were not willing to pull the trigger without good vision themselves.
And right now, with Fnatic falling behind in this composition, it feels so difficult. It feels like OG get to play out what is a very nice, very simple game plan. They have the Tom Kench, they have the Ashe, they have pretty much all the tools to dictate the pace, where the burden feels like it's on Fnatic to find a weakness, to find a hole in the armor and kind of exploit mispositioning.
So Mithy and Patrick did both reset. Mithy has the Abyssal Voids. There's a teleport coming in, but the drag is going down very quick.
This is immediately going to get deleted, but now Nuke Duck decide, will they find the engage? Has the Lissandra ult up and available? Will they commit for more TP being used mid lane? Patrick, the arrow will be up shortly. They can try to just delete someone off the face of the map, but Whipple and Brox are waiting off into the flank. Nuke has to be careful here.
They're on a ward.
Out. Move backwards, is not going to get the dash over the wall, and uses the Lissandra ult as well and gets nothing.
And this is what Origen have needed when they want to push up on this mid lane, and they finally have it. Really nice, deep flanking vision, making sure that they understand their responsibility. Okay, we're here for the tower, we're here for the objective. Yes, we've lost the Infernal, but we can see that Fnatic are looking for that flank to the side and using pressure to zone them away to continue to chip at this mid lane tower. And now with the Ashe arrow back up, Patrick, this is your time to shine. You are looking at a key target to crack this tower.
Yeah, when you have the numbers advantage, when you can use these globals to start something off from afar, it looks very good from Origen. I think you watch them right now and you say, I sort of want the more cautious Origen that we saw a lot during the regular season, that we even saw a little bit in their series against G2, as opposed to one that really jumped out and surprised us in Game 1 here today.
Again, I just think this Origen comp really thrives on an open map, so I actually think that there's so much importance and so much riding on a really good arrow on this rotation of the cooldown. If Fnatic can absorb this, you know, we talked about scaling. Fnatic also have a lot of scaling on their side. The longer this mid tower stays up, I still love the 5v5 potential with Fnatic's Kai'Sa.
And of course, going for the early Q evolve, Reckless. It's going to be a little bit slower to get the active E evolve, but he's going to be able to do a lot of damage still once he gets to 2 items. And I think no doubt in the late game teamfights that without an arrow, Kai'Sa easily going to out-damage this Ashe if set up for success.
And even with the arrow, see Hylissang's itemization. He immediately purchased the Quicksilver Sash. He knows that if he wants to play aggressively in any of these fights or skirmishes, there's going to be a Skarner Impale coming through, the arrow as well. So there is a little bit of survivability on the side of Fnatic to absorb, as you mentioned, that initial engagement from OG.
Checking in on the mid lane though, OG going to take control here. Fnatic going to be forced to respond. And OG have their sights set once again on that mid lane tower. Hylissang just hovering outside of vision there on the stealth, on the Ghostwater dive, but not going to push for an engage here. Bwipo on the bottom side, Nemesis on the top side. They just do not have the members of their team to stop that one from going down.
Yeah, the biggest issue is that they don't have access to the TP from Nemesis, so anytime Origen have information on him on the top side, they know that he pulled the trigger on that for the Infernal Drake, and they feel confident that with their flanking vision on the bottom side that they can go.
Hylissang locked up. As the QS is available, he's just going to wait that arrow up, and Nemesis off to the flank, looking to find something. Is going to lock the Skarner, but now Fnatic trying to find the fight. Bwipo off to the flank. They want to kill someone. Now Mithy's been forced to use the Devour onto Cold, trying to save the day. Cold goes golden. Bwipo under the tower, trying to find something. Will get the kill right as the reset comes down. Hylissang now looking to keep it rolling, but OG respond with kills there on Patrick, flashing forward fearlessly to find the kill.
Origen are able to punish Fnatic right there. It's a double kill for Patrick, and they once again maintain control over this map. Fnatic really pushed there, and Nuke Duck might want more.
Is marked. Rek'Sai could come out. It's just going to hold off. It's just going to back off here in the exchange, but well played. Once again, tower diving. Feels like it is been the biggest risk across all of this series.
But that was just a separation that the back line of Fnatic couldn't follow the front line. And so I actually give credit to Bwipo and Hilly at least picking up some kills there. But like you're saying, well played for Origen. My question is, what does this team fight actually mean for Origen? Because we're just posturing the mid lane. We weren't fighting for the objective here.
Yeah, they were just going for that 5v5 in the mid. You can see Fnatic in this really tough position. They didn't want to dive the tower, but they were put into that place. Because this turret has not gone down, the low HP bars where Pyke could get the execute were underneath that structure. So he had to commit if he wanted to trade those kills, but unfortunately it is not a winning fight for that overcommitment on Fnatic's side.
And now we see 2K gold lead in the favor of OG. The Dragons definitely in favor of Fnatic. To see what else OG can do. Frostfriend, you talked about it, and it feels like we are waiting on that big play from OG. This time they were punishing Fnatic for making a play of their own. Will we see OG make a proactive play?
They got it, and so the mid lane has now opened, which gives them so much more access towards that red side jungle. But now kind of the next big objective for them is trying to get that top tower down, not just so we can play around the Baron, but so you can play around the Abyssal Voyage. Again, trying to pick out Fnatic members if they're off in these side lanes. The thing that's kind of slowing down that setup is the Infernal Drake about to respond. And you can tell that Origen really put emphasis on this because they don't want to give away double Infernal. Because, again, scaling, I'm not super decisive on who actually wins this in a late game.
Yeah, I think that OG have a lot of tools for the front-to-back team fight as well as trying to split up the map, but there's always the Kai'Sa and the snap engage dive potential of Fnatic where if they can jump onto your backline, they can kill you. But watching Origen now, they have a lot of really good vision. Look at those control wards around the mid lane. They're just waiting for Fnatic to walk into them.
Hylissang, though, still fishing, still threatening constantly. Aftershock, though, burn if they do try to force a fight in the next few moments. They might have the free tankiness, and now OG posturing, ready to find a pick here. Nemesis has not overstayed. OG now turning their attention instead to this dragon, but the Scuttle Crab is going to give Fnatic enough vision to know if they want an arena, they've got it. It's right here. Who is going to take the fight? Alphari stepping forward. The arrow does immediately come out now. Alphari pulled back in the middle of the team, but the Gangplank just going to cleanse away. Mythy going to save the day there. A lot expended and nothing going to fall. OG just going to turn back to this dragon. They're trying to get it. Will they extend the play as well?
And the Cannon Barrage just delays so much. Fnatic can't walk through that giant slow field. Origen will take it. They have the Voyage. They want the kills.
Hylissang has to be careful about stepping forward. Bwipo is going to get taken down here. Nuke Duck now on a killing spree.
Can they move into Baron now? It's 21 minutes into the game. It would be very, very risky, but they have 30 seconds to play with.
It's about sweeping out the passageway around the Baron to set it up for later. And again, that ping on the top tower, that's the next kind of crucial point that needs to fall. Although Patrick
pulled, but does not care. He's happy to be pulled right back into the team. Mythy going to flash forward, gives Hylissang the tongue, takes him out, and now mid lane tier 2 is open to the OG team.
It's a massive punish right there from Origen. They're going to pick up 2 towers there in the mid lane, the top lane pushing, as well as you mentioned. And the game just exploded off of 1 Infernal play.
Yeah, Patrick just plants his feet and says, no, I'm not caught, you're caught. And he immediately turns around and again, that tower should still be there. That's a huge mistake from Fnatic. Origen now have so much control with an Abyssal Voyage, with a Cannon Barrage, to play around this jungle and to really start moving and speeding up tempo of this game.
And I mean, without the turret to fall back on as well, the long-range engage of Origen, whether it's the Cannon Barrage, the arrow, or just Cold running so fast at you, it means that you don't have a safety net to fall back on if you are Fnatic. You have to be much more cautious in this game, and it becomes very difficult to get vision over the river, which will inevitably lead to Origen being able to try and sneak a Baron.
Nuke Duck biding his time, doesn't want to go over the wall and try to force the 1v1. Not sure where the remaining members of the team are. Instead, will focus on pressure, but it's not just this comp advantage where they are set up for success. It's also this massive gold lead that they've been building up as we look back at this fight.
Yeah, watching this one more time, this is after all the damage came through, and the Abyssal Voyage just to zone Bwipo back in towards the rest of the team. I feel like all the groundwork was what was really important right there from OG. They got so much chunk onto the enemy team inside of the river, and now Hylissang jumping forward without knowledge of where the other members are. This is a Hylissang that constantly looks for plays even when behind, and these are the situations that punish him and his team so much.
I mean, obviously just fishing there for something. Wasn't expecting probably the damage and the control that Patrick would have behind this Ashe, but you can see through her itemization, she's feeling very strong.
And once again, the more that this advantage extends for OG, the more these item spikes are delayed for Rekkles, who was the key carry for the team in the game that they did manage to win. OG going to grab a tier 2, uncontested completely by the side of Fnatic. Now using the Tahm Kench ultimate as well. Are they just going to go straight onto the Baron here?
They were seen on the ward, so Fnatic should know something is going on. There's also a ward outside of the pit that sees them leave. So now Fnatic, you know, it was not started up and they don't have to risk anything by walking in.
I mean, the game plan was if that control ward spots any sort of vision, then you clear the vision, you back off. You're like, okay, this is fine. If it doesn't, you 100% go for that.
Absolutely the call, and that could have been hugely decisive, but luckily Fnatic, you have just enough vision there with the blue trinket to spot it out. Rekkles getting closer and closer to 2 items. Patrick on the way to 3. The Infinity Edge on Ashe, nothing to sneeze at. Very, very powerful spike. And it honestly feels like at this point, OG are in a position to just take this game and to take this series. And Fnatic, while they showed us so much in Game 3, it does once again feel like OG have been the team to outplay thus far in this game. Reminding people that this was not the expected result overall. After the series versus G2, no one had a ton of faith in OG, but games 1 and 2 kind of changed our minds. And here in Game 4, they're reminding us, you know, why they are so good, why they were able to stand at the top and secure second place in the regular season.
And credit to Alphari and Cold to set this Gangplank up in a position of power where not only did he survive his own lane and really put Bwipo into a hole, but he was able to impact the map with that Cannon Barrage. You know, again, time and time we say, you can punish the GP, you can do something. It's such a, you know, an arrogant pick, if you will, to do it blind like this. But time and time again, our LEC top laners are showing their mastery over this champion and understanding the resources that he requires.
Ooh, he has to be careful here. Has the QSS, the luxury of getting out one time, but burning that before a major team fight could be a massive detriment. Patrick Reddy at the moment has his finger on the trigger here with the Ashe ultimate.
Fnatic waiting. Fight. They get the hook, but do they want to fight here?
Next on a cold. They're now fighting in the pinch. Good for Nemesis, but also good for Nukeduck if he takes the ult.
Yeah, they need to be very careful. As soon as Nemesis clawed out, you didn't have a big cooldown, so Fnatic are just going to wait for that repeat. Here we go, claws back up.
But now trying to find a way into the fight, forcing out the Tahm Kench Devour early. This may be the chance to respond, but Nukeduck is on the backside. Lissandra ult also going to come in, going to disrupt the fight, going to start to cut through these members. Nemesis alive and well, zoning the team off, but now Fari now on a killing spree. Nemesis, no path to retreat, and OG take the fight.
Doesn't even matter that Origen are completely split at the start. They dominate the jungle of Fnatic, making it look easy. Now with Nemesis down, Hylissang as well, they can go for the Baron.
And their prep work has been done. The fact that they know exactly where Fnatic would try to come into this jungle, the fact that they denied the blast cone potential here, and now Mithy has spotted out Broxah, expertly set up from Origen here for this Baron.
They've got 3 members chasing him down.
3 stacks. Is just going to be able to eat him up as he tries to go through the tunnel. They're going to take down the jungler. Baron, of course, reset, but I don't know if it's going to be enough. OG going right back to the Baron, going to try to take this one down and continue to extend their lead. OG on the cusp of facing G2 in the finals. Fnatic need to find a way back into the game.
This is the Origen that climbed up to 2nd place in the regular season. Calm, cool, collected, and clean here as they jump up 11-3 in kills with an 8,000 gold lead. Baron buff, and they're looking to just move right along.
And the fact that they've done so over this best of 5 with so many different styles, showcasing why we respected this team, is really probably going to be cheeky.
Maybe we'll look for a play here, but not connecting on the stun does limit the options. Of course, the execution for Pyke still very relevant, but only level 10 for Hylissang. You know, he's doing stuff. Doesn't amount to much, I think, on the map, but does let him get vision in the enemy jungle.
Again, but the idea that Origen have come into this best of 5, that they've shown so many different looks, so many different champions, and have also gone toe-to-toe with Fnatic, who were heavy favorites going into this in the standard League of Legends. So huge props to Origen in their comeback from their defeat against G2.
So this start of the fight looks good from Fnatic. Again, 5v3 right off the bat, but the Cannon Barrage zones the entire backline of Fnatic. They can't do much given this situation, even though the revive comes through from Bwipo. Origen are eventually able to group up as 5 and just push back against Fnatic because of the Cannon Barrage's zoning capabilities.
And we're once again in a situation where it feels like Bwipo, Broxah, Nemesis, they're all diving the backline, but that leaves no one to protect Rekkles, and it feels like he never gets to auto-attack in these fights. And it's a difficult position to be in as a Kai'Sa, because you're very short range, and when you're ahead with that ulti, it feels so good, but when you're behind, just not a lot you can do.
And now we're trying to figure out where the last stand is going to be for Fnatic. At this point, you're just trying to staunch the bleeding. You just want to slow down Origen's roll to victory.
Pressure, though, coming through. Nukeduck ready to steal a few more ultimates, is level 16. Can start to pressure out here with the Lissandra ult as well. Double cannon minions. No one really going to be able to approach that one. Instead, they're going to focus on clearing mid while those are not Baron empowered.
And Mithy's Tahm Kench just coming up clutch right there. Again, Hylissang, it feels like he can't do anything. He saw this matchup, but he walks up, he hooks. There's nothing else for Fnatic. They must give up their inhibitor. The stand will not be here.
They can't do anything. They just continue to move forward. They break one inhibitor. You feel like they're just going to move into mid lane and look to take another one. And once again, Fnatic, as you mentioned, Frost, have to choose their place to fight. They have to choose their last stand, and they have to choose it well, because this is literally their last chance. If they lose another fight, they will lose this game.
And that's the decision making. If you pick a bad fight, like you're saying, you lose the game right there. You either give up the gold lead and you live to fight another day, where your spring, split, and MSI spot is on the line.
Rekkles, though, with the double daggers now has the Q and E evolved, just enough attack speed. They can look to get this fight kicked off, but the arrow goes in just to stop any further engage options. Hylissang now fishing off to the side. Fnatic, will this be their final fight?
No. Look at where Bwipo is. Now, look at where Bwipo is.
Going to go in, but Nemesis doesn't commit. Feels like the TP may just be used for nothing. Will Bwipo continue to extend the fight? Stepping forward with the ultimate, but he's the only one on the front line. The rest of the team can't move in. Hylissang trying to get something, but Bwipo has burned the ult for nothing. Rekkles completely zoned out with the Cannon Barrage, and now they're just going to try to pick off Nemesis, forcing out the self-ultimate immediately. OG could look for the turn and burn here. They have the Aatrox ult. Nukeduck ready to run in. Scorned. Abduct, where's it going to go? Hylissang has to sidestep, but OG now set to barrel down this mid lane and take even more from Fnatic.
they just can't touch Origen. Origen are unstoppable at the moment. 2 inhibitors down now. They can walk back up top lane after this reset. Origen are looking so good here in Rotterdam.
And again, another perfect ultimate coming out of Alphari to separate Reckless from the fight. There was no way that Fnatic were going to have any sort of follow-up. Fnatic are frankly lucky there that they did not get wiped and just lose the game.
Yeah, Fnatic need a new way to team fight because running at them from the front is not working. Somehow they must come in on flanks. They have to try and dive Patrick and Alphari, but at this point in the game when you're down 8,000 gold, it seems almost impossible.
But what are you supposed to do when you have so many fed members from Origen? Like, we keep talking about Alphari and Cold, and yes, they played the early game so well, they had that transition to mid-game, but at this point, Nukeduck is also just a monster. 4-0-2 on this Sylas.
He's got 75% crit chance, sitting on 4 items plus those boots. There's just nothing you can do to stop this guy.
Patrick is terrifying, the Gangplank is terrifying. 3 items. Frost, you're mentioning Nukeduck, he's got the Proto Belt, he's got the Lich Bane, so much just innate burst coming in from the item selection. And if these teamfights go long, then you're going to get multiple ults from this Sylas, and we still haven't seen a death from below. We've just seen the Lissandra ults coming out, and Fnatic, once again, huge burden of execution to try to come out on top here.
Origen, all they have to do is watch their flank. You see Nukeduck and Cold off to the side. They know that the only way Fnatic can approach is from the side. So Cold watches that, makes sure Hylissang can't get in there, Broxa can't get in there, and it makes the siege so safe. They're waiting for the minions to push through bot lane before they can break top.
Hylissang has to be careful. He continues to step forward. He continues to fish for one miracle hook that could try to win the game, but it feels nigh impossible with the Tahm Kench ready and waiting just to deny him in this exchange. 1 tower remaining. Now the minions finally crashing on the bottom side. This is the key for OG now to push forward. Will there be enough wave clear with 4 members standing, or will OG actually go for the dive?
Look at this, they're holding the wave too. Immediately when it crashes to the tower, that's when they pull the trigger.
Perfect wave timing. Patrick now stepping forward, has to be careful though, still has to give them a decent amount of respect. Instantly cleared by Bwipo. Enough AD on that Aatrox. The second Q will clear the wave. Hylissang now fishing, seeing Nukeduck alone with the dash out with the abscond. Keep the hopes up alive.
Yeah, and Origen again playing with the wave timing, just trying to split up Fnatic, looking for the window.
Once again, Nemesis not going to go in, the dash out. Hylissang on the retreat. Patrick starting to free hit onto this tower. Bwipo using the ultimate massive cooldown to use, but not quite the fight that they wanted. Now stepping forward once again, the Frozen Claw not going to be taken. Bwipo using the ultimate for nothing in this exchange.
Still minions coming in towards the base. OG will not dive the tower. They know they can continue to push, and there's even a Baron spawning in 10 seconds. Fnatic have nowhere to go. Their backs are against the wall.
The patience, the control from Origen, this is not making the same mistakes that we saw previously from Fnatic. They came here for the objectives. They're now looking for the Nexus.
Looking to break that 3rd inhibitor. It's almost impossible to come back at that point, but now they have to force the fight. They have to try to find something. Bwipo into the backline immediately, just trying to delete Patrick, but Mithy has now used the Devour. Fnatic, can they turn the fight? Nemesis is alive and well. Reckless is still okay. They're going to try to get a little bit more, but Nukeduck is simply too strong. Patrick not going to get taken out. Hylissang desperate to get it, but the flash is still there. OG, I cannot believe it. Dominant fashion game 1 and 2, but Reckless tries to make the hero play. Hylissang still alive, but there is no reset here. OG, will they end the game? Will they push forward here? They have 3 members.
They're approaching the tower.
We want to get a little bit more. 2 towers stand in front of them. OG on the cusp of making finals here. Nukeduck now leaving. Hylissang trying to buy as much time as humanly possible. There's no members left standing. It'll be Mithy and Nukeduck. Alphari as well to end the game. They were counted out, but here in the Ahoy Arena, OG have cut down Fnatic and will find themselves in a rematch versus G2.
Origen came into the arena today, and not a lot of people thought they would walk away with a win, and certainly not in the fashion they did it. Domination against Fnatic, only dropping 1 single game, and they look strong going into the finals tomorrow.
They are a team that are fundamental to their preparation. We've always talked about how Origen are the intelligent, the controlled, the methodical team. They didn't have the info to prep for G2. No one had seen what type of form they were going to be in. Against Fnatic, they had so much tape to look at. They knew exactly what they were going to do. They manipulated the drafts. They executed in the early game. They fought them in the late game. This is a completely different Origen, and we need to have completely different expectations.
And it seems fitting that the final hurdle will be G2. Once again, a team that they do not have the luxury of a whole week to prep for. They are still against the wall. G2 still has that 1st place advantage.
But they have the data of facing G2.
Very true. Well, if you want your favorite to win Kia Player of the Series, you need to head over to @eSports on Twitter and vote. 3 options, ladies and gentlemen. So that's what's going to come down to. It's hard to say, though. Who should be in the vote? It was such an incredible team effort, as it always is for OG.
I'm going to say Nukeduck definitely belongs there, as well as Mithy, and I think then you have a flip-up between Cold and Alfari.
Yeah, we'll find out pretty soon once that gets locked in, and you guys can go ahead and tally your votes. But honestly, on the other side of things, heartbreak here for Fnatic. They were at the World Finals last year, and they don't even have the chance in the finals in the LEC to go up and prove their work to see if they can make it a spot to MSI. Instead, it will be Origen that has that honor, as you see them here on your screen.
Mithy, Nukeduck, Patrick, but no doubt the entire team. You hear the crowd cheer, and Nukeduck once again, second back-to-back final for this man. He hadn't made one in so many years, but now summer in 2018, spring in 2019, coach of the split standing with them.
And I hope that this restores some faith in this Origen squad from the audience, that this is not going to be Origen walking into another 3-0, that this was a very different look that they got, that they now have more experience across from G2, and then hopefully they can turn things around, and hopefully more people are behind Origen, and we have a very competitive final.
I think going into tomorrow, everyone expects G2 to be the favorites, but as you said, Origen put up a very strong performance. And I just love what we saw. There was so much different variety.
I mean, if you didn't have faith in Origen before, I hope you have some now after what was a nigh immaculate performance. Yes, Game 3 was one-sided for Fnatic, but every other game looked so good. And this man on your screen stepped up. He was clutch in every single one of Origen's wins. And OG were not the favorites heading into today. What did? They smashed expectations. And now coming in tomorrow, I feel like they can contest G2.
And it's also about backing up the lens and looking at when Origen first came into the LEC. You look at this roster, you know, people are excited to see the brand Origen. People are excited to kind of see the return, but there was still a lot of question marks, specifically about a guy like Mithy. This roster is littered with the woulda, coulda, shouldas of the LEC. You got a guy like Nukeduck, you have a guy like Cold, you have a guy like Mithy, who have seen their highs, but you've also seen very low lows. So I think it just means so much that they found their redemption arc, at least against Fnatic, and now they get that second chance at their revenge arc across from G2.
It's just, I mean, it's the rematch in Rotterdam. It's the rematch.
They literally played here.
They played this game. They played this match last week. They played it 3 years ago, and now they're going to play it again. This time, though, Mithy versus Perks.
Give me Blitzcrank Mithy
again,
and not
though.
NA Mithy.
Yeah.
This was right before Mithy joined G2. This was OG Mithy once again versus G2 Perks once again, but how much the stories have changed. Well, for more on tonight's semifinal, let's head over to Laura and Origen's mid laner and coach.
Thank you very much, guys, and thank you for joining me. Congrats on making it to finals, and also, Giotto, congrats on stopping Young Bucks' winning streak as a coach. How proud are you right now?
I'm super proud of the guys, and especially our week of prep. But at the same time, the job is still not done, and tomorrow is a even more important match than today. So even though I'm super proud of them, I know that I will be even more proud tomorrow.
We'll get back to this later on. Now, Nukeduck, I surely wasn't expecting such a result today, especially based on what we've seen last week against G2. So talk me through what happened. What did you guys work on to be so good today?
I think when we lost against G2, we realized, a lot of more mistakes, and we were way more familiar playing against Fnatic, because obviously we practiced against them the whole week. We know what they're good at, and we know what they're not so good at. So, yeah, it's just an easier matchup for us now. We have more experience against them.
Yeah, as you say, you came in well prepared. I mean, we saw during the draft being ready to the Sona Tariq, and you guys being so proactive later on during the game. So, is it easy for you guys to read Fnatic's draft and play style?
For this series, it was easy to read their drafts, kind of, because we knew that both teams would contest Sona Tariq. So after the first 2 games, I kind of had an idea that one team would have to permaban one of them, depending on who was more successful with it. And that was kind of what happened. And then we knew that blue side was also more predictable, or red side for Fnatic was more predictable, but I still think that Young Buck did a really good job in preparing his team, and their drafts were extremely good.
He did, but you were the better team in the end. I mean, top 2 during the regular season, top 2 here tomorrow, because you'll be playing in the finals. So how do you reflect on the progress you made as a team during the whole split?
Me?
Yeah, you.
Yeah, so like we understand each other much better now, and we have built up that trust because we went through, you know, like a bad patch first, and then we started winning a lot. But even when we were winning a lot, we still won because of some things, and we were not good at everything. And then now when we lost against G2 very hard, we kind of bonded more together, and we realized how exactly we want everyone to play.
And it's going to be a rematch. I mean, you played in the last EU LCS final. You will play in the first LEC final. We know how it happened last time for you in a final and you against G2. So how does the story end tomorrow for Origen and you?
Yeah, it's time for Origen to rewrite history. And yeah, we're going to win tomorrow.
Well, I wish you good luck on that. Thank you very much for you both, for your work. Give it up for the finalists, please, guys.
Thank you.
Now back to you, Shax, for PGL. Take it away.
Thank you very much, Laure. And welcome indeed to the LEC post-game lobby after our first series in Rotterdam. I'm Shax. I'm joined by Amazing and by Yamato to break this down. And we have a lot to talk about. First thoughts, Origen defeating the odds, I think evolving throughout the series and killing some of their demons to make it here, Yamato.
I love the fact that they, you know, in the final game, they picked the blue side and they were willing to just ban out the AD carries. Yeah. Why not, you know? That is the usual problem when you run into Fnatic, and I think they solved it pretty well in the last game draft.
I just like how the cold-blooded they were. Honestly, like against Fnatic, a team that is able to punish every single mistake, you have to keep on coming, and even after losing game 3, they didn't back down and just closed it out in the end. That,
for me, is the single biggest point to remember for me so far, because we all said it. If you give Fnatic a game, you have to be very careful what they do with it. If you're OG, you're dealing with your morals that aren't as high as they were before. You're dealing with the fact that maybe you've shown everything in draft and you may have to make a confident decision going into game 4. And that is where I feel they have taken a huge step forward today.
I feel like, you know, the Tam Kench, we said it's 2-4, now 3-4.
Yes, this is
really
the one you gotta win, man.
Of course, it's the most important one. And Ash Tam is such a strong lane, especially with those AD carries banned, the Vayne and the Sivir. All of a sudden, there's a lane that you can get prio with. They pinched the support in the second wave. They had to play against Pyke. And when Mythian is in a position to get prio and he's playing the Tam Kench, he's going to be all over the map.
I mean, I have to say kudos to you. I doubted it because he was 2-4 on it, but it did work out fantastic. And there's going to be a lot of people we highlight throughout this for OG who got to say, Mythy, man. He was coming back, of course. He had some very good games this split, but this was simply astonishing. How was it that he played so well today?
Like, I personally feel like this is the type of performance that you get from the best support in Europe. I think the Blitzcrank game was absolutely nuts. The Taric ultimates were on point. He didn't get much credit for it. The fourth game, the third game was rough for multiple reasons, but fourth game once again driving position Tam Kench.
Best support in Europe, do you agree?
I honestly, in terms of crunch time, when it comes to crunch time, he is the best support. Like, it doesn't matter what happens throughout the split. If this guy gets to a playoff stage and he has to perform in a best of 5, he will try, like he will actually win. He will just get to the finals no matter what. There's no stopping him, and it shows every single team he has been on. He has had such a good impact on it, and actually makes the team better. He's actually a player that you would call an MVP in some kind of ways, whereas like you always usually like focus on the carry players, but this guy makes every team that he's in just so much better and so much more consistent come playoff time.
Yeah, and I actually think his story is so crazy. You know, he came back, and when we had him on the very first, one of the first PGLs this year, he wasn't feeling that confident. You know, he was kind of second-guessing it, and probably also second-guessing all the choices he'd made in the last year, ending up on this team. But he completely committed to this Origen lineup, and he took something from every game they won, from every game they lost. And maybe we haven't seen the best of Mythy yet, which is really exciting to even talk about.
For sure. Yeah. I remember back in the day when I played with him on a team. It was back in season 3.
What was it? Hammered against Colossi?
Hammered against Colossi. Those were some good times. And Mythy, even back then, he was the person that was willing to take responsibility for everyone. Yeah. Everyone always focused on their own thing, and he was always like, I want to be the shot caller. I want to practice being the shot caller, and that's very rare.
Yeah, it is. And, you know, he's shining right now. But there's a lot of people we need to talk about when we talk about this series. Let's take a look at how things worked out in Game 4 on match point. And, well,
it looked shaky.
The top lane, it looked shaky. It didn't start great. But I think also when you're playing versus Fnatic and still escape, you just got to brush it off, man.
Yeah, you have to brush it off. And I'm actually surprised that Code even didn't respond to that play, but it's about the mentality coming in. They didn't mind that Fnatic got a couple of playoffs. They didn't mind that Fnatic did anything on the map. They just looked for the response they had before in Game 1 and 2 and kept going with it. And they just consistently outperform Fnatic on a macro scale, and that's something that's so important against a team that will keep striking you whenever they can.
Yeah, and that I think very interesting as well, because OG is also a team we always talked about. They want to play correct on the macro level, but we often see that if you don't add enough spice, that doesn't work. It feels like here they found the mix because they played it correctly, but they weren't afraid to experiment.
Like a big point of discussion was always in this G2 series, there was the Lissandra Zoe games. These are champions that doesn't give Nuktak the same amount of advocacy that we saw today. We saw the Zed, the Silas. He was always on a champion that allows him to be in charge. And I think that's a big change of pace, and I'm hoping we see this type of OG tomorrow.
Ooh, and I'm hoping we see this type of Nuktak. This guy, we tried it with the Year of the Duck all the time, but honestly, same like with Mithy, it almost feels like this is the perfect setup for him.
Where was this Nuktak, like from 2013 to 2017? Where was this guy?
It was sometimes there.
Banned for a year.
That's also true.
He was banned for a year.
Banned,
then he was on the Vitality roster. He kind of
took you to 5 games with Rocket.
Oh yeah, true.
On,
actually,
man.
that happened too. But it's just so surprising that someone can honestly take almost like time off in lower tier teams for 4 years and then be basically the second best or best mid laner in EU, depending on who you ask. You know.
Possibly.
I mean, the thing is that his performance in terms of playoff time, he's just consistent. It's the same as Mithy. They are really similar types. They have a lot to do with one another, obviously with their history too, when Love Dogs and stuff. So their personalities really like adapt to one another, and they really do well together whenever they can.
Like, I worked with Nuktak on multiple teams. I coached him. I played with him as well. And something that was always unique about Nuktak is how much he actually loves the game.
Yeah.
It was very easy for him to be like in a position, new champion comes, he's willing to learn it. There was never anything exhausting about playing for him. And I think that carries a lot of weight when you have such a long career, the love for the game. And he's also emotionally stone cold in game.
Yeah.
I think that matters too when you play on big stages like this one.
True, stone cold Nordic killer, that guy. Now, in the series, there were a lot of interesting moments. What I do want to call up specifically is Game 2, because for me, that also spoke to a lot of OG's development. Because this started off really, really well for Fnatic, but OG recognized what their comp could do and fought back in that game.
Yeah, they feel a lot more comfortable when they actually know how to play their comp. They were coming in with a plan. They knew how they were going to operate with the Sona tag, and they did it perfectly. And that's also just coming back against Fnatic is something that doesn't really happen.
No,
Once Fnatic has control, they just win.
For sure.
They don't need much, and in this game they even throw. So OG, whenever they could strike and whenever they could like exploit opportunities, they just went for it. And especially these kind of engages, these are clutch plays. They don't usually happen by random players. They happen by stars. And even though Origen doesn't have superstars on their team, they have consistent players. They're all able to strike at the time when they need to strike.
I think they have players that are honest about the situation in the game. They know when they need to find those moments. And something that I want to point out, I think the fact that Fnatic, you know, I always think of Reckless and his Twitch, and I always get bad memories. I feel like his Twitch is cursed. Because always he gets ahead. I remember the games against Immortals. Caps was telling me about the game against G2 when he was playing like exactly Twitch Annie with Hylissang, and they also lost with a 10k gold lead. So maybe Twitch is a bit cursed there because we had the same thing happening there.
Could very well be. Now, I think as we continue to talk about Origen, and we will later as well as we talk about the specific G2 matchup, I also want to button things up for the side of Fnatic this split. And it's easy now to say, you know, choke today, it didn't work out for them, they couldn't win any games. We also have to remember that they had a development and they had a roster change and stuff like that, but I think it's hard to discern right now what happened. Can you guys summarize it for me? What happened with Fnatic today?
Well, to be honest, I think the first 2 games, Fnatic wasn't really playing. They were playing against compositions they weren't ready to face, the Sona Taric, and also play the Sona Taric themselves. And I also feel like the priority that they gave to Bwipo was a mistake. They kept giving the 3rd pick Aatrox, when in all honesty, they should have given, I just want to see Hylissang Braum once, or Hylissang Rakam.
Yeah, I mean, question marks are arising. Is this the only champion they feel comfortable giving to him in those situations? We don't know, but is it reason to concern going forward?
It kind of is. We know kind of that peak. Obviously, this split we saw it because they had their huge win streak in some kind of way. But come playoffs, they've usually been the best they've always been, you know. So when it comes to crunch time and they underperform, it makes me worried because what is the actual limit? How far can they go? Is this the limit? I suppose so. So if teams get better throughout the summer split and Fnatic has already peaked, what is going to happen to them?
Yeah, and I think that's a very interesting question to pose for, of course, the two-time champions of last year. Now, they won't get to defend their title, they won't get to go to MSI, and they have a lot of thinking to do.
I feel like this series, Whippo was very exposed. He got the champion that he loves playing and performed very well on against Splice, but we saw the fact that it is a coin flip. He got so much attention from Broxah in comparison to what Alphari got. In this game with the Gangplank, he even got killed, and then eventually we saw him forcing Aatrox ult by himself, and that just shouldn't happen when Aatrox is ahead. And I think that is the biggest question mark for me, is that the prior for Whippo was just not worth it.
And I think I completely agree with you, and that's something that we'll have to track. We have to remember this is the first full year that there is no dual position in that top lane. There is no Soaz or Whippo, and that can bring a lot of pressure with this as well. The only caveat I'm going to make is in many of these team fights, especially in Game 4, you got to think that's also a team call, right? Because he goes in, he has all, I don't think that's someone going Rambo, and I think that all stems back to the fact that Fnatic just they weren't on today.
Yeah, they have been, even at words like, when they played really, really well, and once they had the control, they're always winning. But they had, for example, against EDG, Game 2, if I remember correctly, they were down 5k, and they just made this clutch play. And these plays didn't come in today.
No.
So they were no clutch plays.
For sure.
They just rolled over at some point, and honestly, looked lost.
Disappointing, I would say. I think that's fair to say, and they'll probably feel the same way, no doubt in my mind. However, let's turn our attention back to the victors here today. Unexpected to some, to many, but they showed up. And the Kia player of the series goes to Mythy with 50% of the votes.
Well deserved.
Yeah.
Super well deserved. I mean, yes, Nukeduck is in that conversation. They all are, but just the growth of this guy and the way he performed and he carried his team with the rest of the team to the finals is immense.
I just remember the games where he played against Fnatic as well. Galio killed him level 1, he died level 2, level 3, level 4. And those are the OG games we want to forget.
Yeah.
And to see the difference from that day to today, where he genuinely, I believe that he carried those games when it was like a support battle about Hylissang being creative. Mythy with his Blitzcrank was amazing. Tarek, lovely. And the last, to top it off, the beautiful Tam Kench with the 2-4
The
score line.
beautiful Tam Kench, who's now 3 and 4, and maybe he makes that positive tomorrow in the final. We'll see. If we button it up for all the players individually, Alphari, we wanted more priority on him, right, in the beginning. I think they didn't really hard commit to that either. And he's either here nor there for me today. So it's going to be left to be seen what he does versus Wonder tomorrow. We can talk about that in a second. And finally, also, Patrick, we talk about Mythy, but Patrick, he didn't show up versus G2 the first time at all. Now, I think he did much, much better, and I hope he can keep that up for tomorrow.
I mean, it was valuable stage experience, honestly, against G2. He has not really been in a situation where he had to face a playoff team. And I think coming in and actually playing that playoff series against G2 really helped him to kind of grow. And on this stage, he went for forward plays. He did what he had to do as an AD, which is make that play at the right time and position correctly. And I think he has really grown over the time.
That he has. We'll dive very deep into the G2 OG preview in just a little bit. First, though, we've got Laure standing by with Fnatic's coach. Let's see what he has to say.
Joining me after this series, there had to be a better team, right? But when you think about it, Fnatic went from bottom of the LEC to semifinals today. So talk me through this journey with the players for you to reach this place today.
It's a journey I think that everyone in our team will cherish, because when we were finished with week 3 and we're 1-5, I don't think any of us ever thought that we were going to make it to Rotterdam or even playoffs. So I'm personally very grateful that I got to experience Rotterdam in my home country, and I'm sure that the other players are as well. And I think we're just really happy with how we restructured the entire team and improved so much that we made this comeback and even made it to 3rd place.
I'm really glad to hear that, and we'll come back to that later. But you were mentioning Rotterdam. This is your homeland, right? So how was it for you to experience this live crowd of yourself?
It was very special, because I think this is the only place in the world where people cheer just as loud for me as for Reckless, which is very unique. So I got a lot of goosebumps, and usually I get a little bit emotional, but I have to hold it in.
I'm really nice to hear that. And we can actually hear them clapping in the audience. Now, you were talking about Fnatic. What can we expect from the team in summer? What will you guys work on to reach the finals in summer?
I think we can look a lot more at teams like Origen and how they play so controlled, so slow, with a very solid pace, and also learn a lot from G2, which is very individually strong and aggressive and find always the right moments to fight. So I think we have a lot of things we can learn from our competitors that are going to play tomorrow. And I can't wait to see you back again in summer. Now, do you have any words for the Fnatic fans who came cheering for you today? Can I do it in Dutch then? Of course, please. Hartstikke bedankt voor het komen. Het was echt fantastisch om jullie iedere keer te horen. Ja, het is gewoon fantastisch hoe luid jullie waren en hoe supportive. Zelfs iedere keer als wij verloren hadden en we weer naar buiten kwamen, dat jullie ons weer toejuichten. Dat was echt, dat heeft echt heel veel geholpen. Echt super bedankt.
You can hear them, but they're screaming in the audience. Thank you very much, Youngbuck, and I wish you good luck and a nice return in summer. Now back to you, Shucks.
Thank you very much. He just said, as a quick translation, that he's very thankful for all the fans cheering them, even when they were losing games, who still tried to make sure that they were in a good mood going back on stage. However, it didn't help. Also, welcome, Trevor. Surprisingly upbeat interview from Joey. I think he has to be, it's mea culpa for him, because he said it's going to be 3-0. It turned out to be the opposite for them. What do you think about that?
I mean, I think I've been listening to Vedius quite a lot, and I don't know if Youngbuck was as surprised. One of the things that I'm a little disappointed Vedius didn't get to say on broadcast today is the style of Fnatic has been very good, but it has been fairly one-dimensional. There's holes, there's ways you can play around it if a team is good enough to prepare. And that is what Origen showed today. They had different styles, they played different ways. Going into that very last game, sitting backstage with Yamato and the rest of the crew, said, well, if Fnatic can't play through bot lane with this Kai'Sa, they're going to lose the game.
Devil's advocate. If they all play like this and they all play well, they win though.
Now, what I will say is...
It's so easy to say that, I think.
I had to eat my words. I did not believe that Origen had the caliber to step up today and put Fnatic in their place. I misrepresented them. I've said in interviews before, I didn't think they had the winning gene. I said maybe only Mythy has that special power. And I ate my words. I'm sorry, Origen. You guys smashed Fnatic and did so correctly.
And I think we all have to, right? Because none of us on this desk predicted it either. And I think that just speaks to how much of a step forward they took so far, OG. The question is, how much do they have left in the tank for that final tomorrow? So I do want to pull up the bracket first. Sorry.
I'm out. I'm out on that one.
I'm going to pull up the bracket, because then we get the oversight of everything that happened. It's been eventful. It's been absolutely crazy. Fnatic beat Vitality in round 1, beat Splice in round 2, falling to OG. OG, who played G2 last week and got demolished, now demolished Fnatic. Tomorrow, we have the final of G2 versus Origen for our very first LEC title. And I have to admit, that's also not what I expected. But after today, I am extremely excited to see what Origen brings.
Likewise, because I think that the OG we saw against G2 the first time was something that was trying to copy... They were trying to copy Fnatic, I felt like. They were playing Lissandra and the Zoe, and it was like all of a sudden, all this advocacy that you like to put on Nuktak, it wasn't there. The play that they do into bottom to give Mythy this opportunity to pressure the whole map wasn't there either. And today we saw that, and I think we're going to see a completely different best of 5.
And let me also ask you, we talk a lot of times, you just said it about like no superstars, you know, on the team. I think they're taking steps, you know, because Mythy today, that was a superstar performance. But it has to happen more than 4 games.
It is, and the thing for me is Mythy was the guy that had already sort of proven it in the past. Yeah. We made a lot of jokes last year about it being the year of Nuktak. What we forgot was, or the mistake that we made is, it's not a calendar year. It's gone from summer to spring. If you look at Nuktak last summer, you look at Nuktak this spring. I mean, Nuktak had a phenomenal